Okay, I'm alive. Here we go. And I'm chilling out in my bed tonight. It's raining. It's Sunday night. I am tired. And I'm here to tell you, Neville Goddard, I was thinking about what are we going to talk about tonight and what we need to talk about, especially right now at the end of the year coming. And we're going to be heading into 23. And I know for certain I know because I've seen these people. I've been among them. I've been in groups with them. I now have my own group, my own stuff going on. And guess what? Some of the same people are there, and the same people are running in the same circles, and they still are not grasping what they need to be grasping. I don't like the way this camera is. Um. Anyway, so after we have been reading. I know my father. And that is an incredible book. So he manages to take all of religion, all of the biblical stuff, scripture, all of it, which scares people. And the problem with that is that you have to start getting a new belief system about that because he's telling you again and again for literally his entire life and his legacy up until now. The man's been dead almost 50 years. He died he died right around now, I think, right? Anyway, he's telling you it is not secular history. It is not religion in the way that we have always thought about religion. Hey girl, what it is psychology. It's spiritual psychology. These are states of mind. That's why I am telling you again, you are foolish if you have not started implementing the role of the disciples. They're listed in my YouTube group. I mean, in my Facebook group. There's videos of them. They're around TikTok. They're in the Facebook group posted. We've talked about them. You can read them. You can read the 12 disciples worksheet. It's posted. It's everywhere. It's free. Hey, Francesca, how are you? I was going to call you Francine. I always think of American Dad. So, anyway, you can simply make. In fact, we have a workbook. Jolene made it. I mean, it's simple. It's cute. It's just. I mean, it's simple. It's simple because it needs to be simple. All it needs to be is here's the disciple. Here's the characteristic of mind. You go and write down where you can use that same thing. Take Simon, the hearing. What are you only going to hear? And that's it. And start going down however you want to do it. Whether you're someone who likes to, I'll tell you how I did it. So from a few months ago when it came to me, and here's another tip too. When something comes to you, as you level up through these phases, through this time goes by, and you do start to tap into this, you do start to buy into it. You do start to accept that you're God of some sort of, or you're powerful, or you're in charge, or you're at cause, or your consciousness, whatever. You are paying more attention to your thoughts as it is. And you are, even if you're not disciplining them, you're aware, you start to become more aware of, you can like reverse engineer a lot easier. And so you can start to, you wind up testing whether you want to test or not, because you start going, I was just thinking that, or I have been worried about that, or that is the way that it always works out, or you find yourself thinking like, of course you didn't call, or of course they were late, or of course, if you're saying of course, and then it turns out not how you like it, I mean, there's the dots. That is what Neville is teaching. So when it comes to getting disciplined, that is just an aside because it's the key to it, because you have to start controlling your thoughts. Because whether you want to believe this or not, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you choose to accept it. It doesn't change it. It doesn't make it stop. It doesn't mean that it's not going to happen. It just means you're going to be giving up on yourself and just blowing in the wind. So when we're going into the new year, like I said, I have spent the last few months focusing on the disciples. And it's because that came to my mind when I was thinking about what would I want to learn if I were just learning right now. That was like almost never like really talked about, never brought up in the circles I was running in. And that came to my mind. And they're always on my mind now. Of course, I mean, this is about having disciplined thoughts, inner conversations, holding on to your belief. It's just a dialogue, it's just a story. And it's just been spinning, and we just refuse. So if you don't believe that you're God and you want to buy into you can buy into consciousness, that's fine. When you read or listen to the first and second chapters are up, the third chapter is done. It was the holiday, so it'll get put up probably, Monday or Tuesday, and I'm already on to chapter 4. Chapter 3 was the foundation stone. So it starts with first, I know that I am one with my Father. I know that I am just awareness, and that God, my Father, is the consciousness that exists subjectively, meaning it just exists. It's just conscious. It hasn't defined. You are the one who defines it by where you're putting your attention. So that cannot be said enough. I and my Father are one. My Father is greater than I, right? And that's covered in that chapter. Read the book. It's so quick. And here's the thing, if you knew Neville's work, if you knew how rich and how expansive over all these years, and how there are books and lectures and recordings, and each one says the same thing essentially, but it tells it to you with a different parable, a different character, a different story, a different way, a different part of the story, so that you have a full knowledge of the whole story. Doesn't something make much more sense when you know the full picture? If I just came up to you and you didn't know me from anybody, and I just said, here's something that's so completely opposite of everything you've ever known your entire life, just trust me. Why would you? And what you would be crazy too if you did. Right? The reason that people do is because they come in and they're desperate. They're heartbroken. They hear this manifesting. They think it's magic. They think it's something. They have no idea. And then people jump on bandwagons, blah, blah, blah. But we've created all that too. I've created all that. So it's always going to be this like slippery, this like rabbit hole, because I can have a conversation with you as others to teach, right? I wanted to to teach law of assumption to people when I really didn't even quite understand it yet. I knew right then effortlessly. So there's no big or small, because that you would think would be big, but it was completely effortless. And now here it is. The very fact that I'm sitting here, I don't care if there's one person who followed a TikTok or one person who followed this or anything else, that my subconscious mind bought into it enough that it now produced it. I tricked it, and I did nothing except know. I just knew. And when you know something, it doesn't matter. You're still thinking it. I still thought about it. I still knew I wanted to do it. I still loved it. I could talk about this forever. I love it. And when I chose to walk away from some other things that, you know, Most people would be like, "Why would you do that?" It's because I love this and I know enough about Neville that I completely I'm bought in. That does not mean that you completely master it immediately. Even for a few years, it doesn't, but you're not even gonna begin to start to understand what you're doing until you accept that you are whatever you're pointing your face at, okay? God is underneath you. This is a garment, and it's for good reason. You know why. You have the answer why God did it. Why would God, who has if consciousness has everything, God knows everything and can have everything in an instant in consciousness, right? What why would he then break himself up and come and play every part and put himself through every possible situation and make us forget? Why? Because it's boring, right? It's boring. Yeah. Right now in my mind, I can go anywhere. I could be with anybody. I could have a conversation with anybody. I could be eating imaginary chocolate cake. I could be eating imaginary dinner. I could be laughing at imaginary shows. I could be, touching, sleeping on imaginary bed. Is it the same? No. There's such a richness. That's why we have these descriptive words and feelings and all of these things. If I'm a baker, I don't wanna just write on a recipe card and put it away and imagine it. I wanna bake it, right? I wanna be involved with it. So he came for expansion and to experience things, and he's living in your body. You just had been asleep. Do you not notice that there's a difference in you? If nothing else, don't take Neville's word for it. Don't take my word for it. Don't take anybody's word for it, which Neville begs everybody, and we're going to talk about that, how he does it here too, to try it, to test it. If I'm told what I'm told in scripture, and we'll go over that in 1 second, then which we already know. If I'm told I'm God, if I'm told I'm consciousness, if I'm told my Father and I are one, and whatever I put my awareness on, the consciousness is going to instantly start forming. And that's why I'm going to persist until it hardens into a fact, right? We have to do a couple of things. We have to accept that. We have to test it, because if I'm the only one that can test that, if I know, okay, you told me that God can do anything, God creates, this is how it works. Tell me how to even do it. Go home, just imagine it, think about it, know that they say thank you. The simplest way to just say thank you for that. Thank you. I'm so happy that that happened. Have a little inner conversation with someone. The other simplest way is to just get lost in imagining it, like really just having fun with that. I don't know why people have such a hard time with it, but if you do have a hard time with it, then just resort to just saying, "Thank you, thank you, thank you." And that is amazing that that worked out. I knew it would, but what a fun way that it did. And that's it. What you will find is you're gonna start seeing stuff happen, and you feel different. You know you are connected to this, or you would have walked away a long time ago. You would not have been seeing any results anywhere. You would have walked away laughing. And people do. We all know people who we have mentioned this to. So there you have to accept that this is it's not the reality we're used to. So religion means reality. Scripture does not mean religion. There is no religion. Religion is a man-made mistake. Religion is a false assumption that was persisted in. And now it's hardened into such a fucking fact that people die to this day because of a misunderstanding of all this craziness. Yes, it is a beautiful. I heard your beautiful wedding. I heard everything went so perfectly, and there were some funny moments and some tearful moments and beautiful moments and, you know, near near falls, and, you make something up so that it stands out as an event too or something if you want that to be the scene, or, or maybe you don't. Maybe you just wanna be home on Sunday night, like, isn't it just nice that that's all done and behind me, and I'm, like, home on Sunday night with my husband, and we're just, like, watching TV before we fall asleep. Maybe that's all you want. Maybe that just implies it for you. Doesn't always have to be, it's whatever's for you. So like I said, number 1, you know in yourself that there's something different. You know you're awake to something. You know you're becoming more aware. You know that's happening, or you wouldn't be here. You know that's happening. Number 2, you've read it 8,000 times. You've heard 8,000 people saying the same thing again and again, and yet you you can't stop yourself because it's habit. We're creatures of habit, right? And and like I said, and it's a slippery slope. It's just like a rabbit hole kind of thing, because I'm talking to you as people. I had to create, right? In chapter 2, when I was reading it, it's in the video, the second chapter, but you can read it yourself in the sword. And he says, he's talking about it, and he says, how, um, wait, which part? What part? What was I even thinking about right now? See, my mind goes crazy. Oh, the whole world. First of all, we're living in the body of God. So God became man, so man could become God. So imagine it almost like, sometimes I imagine it sort of like a cloud of consciousness, and we're like in the cloud, and then the cloud is also in us. I don't know, because there's a way to the move we're moving within God. So that's why there is no outside. There is nothing outside. There's no one, there's no thing, there's nothing to get. God had to imagine himself into a being, right? Adam had to take from his own body to create Eve, right? And think about it, if there is nobody else, even if I'm taking from myself, at the end of the day, we're all going back to God. So the good thing about knowing Neville, why I am going to insist upon this, is that, like I said, it's bizarre enough, it's different, it's not this reality where there's yes, no, yes, no. You know, it's everything and then back to you. It's everything and then back to you. So I can sit here and talk to you as if you're actual people, and you are an actual person the same way I have consciousness here. I know you have consciousness there, but we are one person. And in my little world, I don't know anything else about you except the story I made up that you're telling me, showing up in a way, that you have to be molded after my concept of myself. That it says, when you are aware of being and your self concept is at whatever it is, that is how that's the mold God uses to people your world. And when it's not just people, it's everything in your life. It's going to be everything in your life is going to be at a certain kind of state. You can be better at certain things than others. Like, have good health, but no money, or money, but not good health, or, love, but no money, blah, blah, blah. But you're still going to be in like a general state of mind, right? A general place of who you kind of think you are. And that is why he just says, "What do you want?" Like, and he's saying, "What do you want to be?" Like, "What do you wanna be? Who are you? What do you wanna be?" And then I'm just gonna be there. He wants to be in Barbados. He wants to be, right? These people wanna be he wanted to be married to his wife. He wanted to, right? So it's about being. We're human beings. We're not human doings, human manifestors, human workers, human, chosens. We're human beings. And so as we were asleep, we were asleep, we were asleep. We didn't get to decide anything. We're told this again and again and again. If you read one Neville article, you've read everything in terms of you are at cause for everything. Your thoughts, God is your imagination. You're in from your body to the everything. So that means every person. And that's what, the whole yourself pushed out thing is. And that's why if you continue to tell the same story about yourself and about other people and about money and about this and that, you are going to do this in vain. You're doing it in vain. And then you have a person you don't know coming up to you and just saying, just trust me, just keep repeating this. That's it. That's all you got to do. Well, if you understand how you have this power, why you have this power, all the stories, where they play out, how they play out, what they mean, ways to leverage them, right? We have to start leveraging what we know. So it's all the same substance and it's all just rearranged. That was what I did the last live on, as far as think of it as no different than the alphabet, right? So here we are now going into this week. Neville, we're finishing up this year. There's going to be people who are still trying to get their SP by the end of the year, still trying to do this, still looking outside, still thinking, that there is an outside. Still sitting there in doubt, still sitting there in fear, and it's a habit. And again, those same people, when I say to them in January, did you write down new sentences? Did you write down the disciples and practice one or two thoughts that you're going to become aware of and stop saying and put in a replacement word? Make up something new. If it doesn't serve you, why would you keep it? Why would you save it? Why would you use it? Leverage it. Leverage it, right? But you'll see, have you done that? I've asked people many times, like, write a love letter to yourself, because this is the other thing. This is actually so simple. It's funny because I was talking today to a couple of people. And they both were like, "Oh, I kind of had been having a rough few days or whatever." And someone at the same moment sent me a video, and it was of this kid on TikTok, and he says, "After all the things I've been through, all the retreats, all the spiritual stuff, all this, that, the next therapy, everything, it's just about love." And if you know Neville Goddard and you know Love Assumption, you knew that. You would know that because you know that he says that. He says, love endureth. Love is the only reality. Love is the only reality. And love is eternal. And Jesus is love. And God is love. So guess what you are? You're not trying to be loving. You're not lovable. You exist. The fiber of your being is made of love. The act that God did to lay down his life and you existed before earth did. God made that plan first. And the thing that's interesting, and I've hinted at this, and I'm definitely gonna do it, but he talks about there's still a spiritual side, okay? Because there's still something going on here. right? It's if it has this calculated, if it's consciousness and it has this plan and it has these, this whole story and it did this, there's something there. And he talks about it as the body of when all these pieces, when we all come back together, we will form a body that's the promise that God wears, that is so, like, magnificent. It's nothing we've ever seen, and it's been, like, compared to, like, the caterpillar and a butterfly, right? Like, we have no, like, that's such a weird, like, it melts, and then it turned into something completely different that it has no idea. So we're basically that's what we are. So we're like God larvae, essentially. But the thing to constantly remember is, how does this help you? What is this? Why do we want to learn this? What is why? Like, I just want to get my shit. So I do understand that too. I just want to get my shit. I just want to know how to manifest. I want my SP to come back. I want people in my life. I want what I fucking want. I want money to come. I want it to show up. I think I'm not thinking about it, but blah blah blah. But yeah, I'm talking about it. I'm still, focused on it. Yada yada yada. The reason you need to know is because it gives you a solid background, because this takes habit breaking and it doesn't make sense. The sense that we thought that we were using to make sense of this realm, now that we know it's not what it was, all the rules go out the window too. All the rules go out the window. There's not a single thing. Neville says there's not a single thing, because you're creating it. So your subconscious mind is going to take that on. It's like a missile. It's like a fucking missile. It's been programmed, and when it's launched, it is going to hit its target. Even if it's from America to another country, right? In Germany, where these missiles would be programmed and they would hit their fucking target. It's the same idea. Or God's word is not going to come back empty, right? So when you have all of this background, and when you have all these stories, and you have all of this information, and you have all of these explanations, and all of this stuff makes sense, and you've tested it, and you've tried it, and you've seen it, and you've experienced it, what else, what else is it going to take? If you're just walking around listening to a bunch of bullshit stuff that's just being repeated and repeated and repeated, and it doesn't mean shit to you, and then you have to live in a world that's backwards, upside down. What what you thought was your head is your tail. What you think is a tail is, doesn't exist. It's sort of like that. It's like it's not even just backwards. It's, you know, hi, me again, me again, me again, me again, right? So whatever it is that is in your life, even if it's an absence of something, we are just love. At some point, we got closed off to love in certain ways, and it basically it changes the whole thing, because if we were just love and we just stayed in that mode of God mode, right? That's why I just jump ahead. Once I accepted that I was God, it was like I just jumped ahead. And I just know. Does it mean I don't have, like, fucked up times where I completely forget? Does it mean I don't have, like, bad days? Yes, I do, and I completely forget. Even sometimes when I'm talking to people, you buy into the fact that they're real, or that they're saying that they have free will. I keep doing it myself. I'll be, like, looking up analytics on YouTube, and then I'm like, "Why the fuck do I care? These are not real. This is just some bullshit stuff that people are calculating afterwards, because in this pretend world, people are busy and this is what's happening. And this stuff's created and it's here and it's hardened into fact, but doesn't I don't have to accept it. I don't care." When I see people say, "How I got 1,000,000 people in, a day," and they give all these explanations. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. First of all, you didn't. You just believed, so you did it. And second of all, you don't even exist. I believe that there are some people who will do really well and there are some people who will not. Or I believe that it's scammy, or I believe that there's going to be lies, or I believe that there are people that are really lucky. It can have 100 different meanings from 100 different people, right? Because we are in our own little space when we're in our own space, but we have no way of knowing anything else. So it can nothing, no one comes to no one comes to me and say, my Father calls him, and my Father and I are one. I have been that saying, the Father only calls what I am conscious of, what I am aware of. It forms into it, and then it molds my universe after me. Hear that, hear that, hear that. So everything has to be some representation, has to match that chord. It has to. It has no choice. Has no choice. So my whole universe could very well be so completely different than yours. I have no idea. And when you leave here, the easiest thing to do is just pretend you're like a deflated doll. You don't exist. It's just me and my mind and whatever I'm creating. And people will show up. You don't go through the phase where I did, and don't stop accepting things, because even when you come into this world, and like I said in a TikTok, I am guilty of doing it. I fell for it and then I perpetuated it. How? Because I started doing the same things. I started saying the same things. And then I got into being caught up in the same shit. And I was saying stuff that I didn't even realize I didn't quite know. I didn't quite know. Right. And you will constantly level up. But here's what I want to tell you. And this is what's important. And like I said, I want to keep this one at like an hour because it's the same thing. But when you have all of this information, it gives you the support, it gives you the trust, it gives you the faith, it gives you the place to turn, because there's nothing that's going to do this except faith and trust and breaking a habit. Like, that's it. That's how you manifest. You think this thought and you understand that if this is reality, this is not. This is not. So there's not a thing, there is not a thing that can enter in to the body of God and you that you haven't been aware of, and then God started forming into. And then that's by design. That's how things get created. That's why we go through every experience. And we wouldn't want to not, because if you want to just go back to consciousness, you're there right now. Go there right now. You can have everything you want right now. Is it fun? Is it as thrilling? It's right? There's a reason that we want the things, the tactile things, the sensory things. There's a reason we want it. So look at this twistedness of it. It's like, it's almost like a joke. It's almost like this, it's almost that, but who's doing it? We did it to even God. I am God. So if I am imagining something unpleasant, if I am imagining someone's being rude to me, someone's not talking to me, someone's this, someone's that, someone's telling me horrible things, if I am thinking ugly things about other people, if I am thinking that I am poor, I am this, I am unhealthy, I am all these things, if I am thinking them, then when I say I am, you learned enough to know, what is I am? God. So who's thinking it? God is. Why? Because you're staring at it. You're the driver. You're driving it. So if you're looking at it, and you look at it long enough, God molds into it, hardens into it. It hardens into a fact. That's what everything is here on this earth that you know of today. So the reason that this particular lecture I like is because he tells you an exact way to fucking do it. You can literally take this scripture, which you can get for free, this lecture, which you can get for free anywhere, right? I'll post it in a group. I'll leave it here. We put the links here too. If I, when I'm reading it from the book, like I said, listen to the book again and again. It's it will it'll blow your mind how he makes it a page or two to sum up everything that's going on, that all he's talking about in the scripture, and you still get the point. And then you get creative with the fun, different little things you can come up with. Like right now, my favorite thing is to be like, get ye behind me, Satan. I am going to the cross. You're a hindrance. Why? I can't get to a new state until I die to this old fucking idea of my self concept. Not literally, but we know the cross is a point. It's something I need to nail myself to. That's my new state. That's what I want. That's where my target is. That's what it is that I want. Satan is just doubt. So get the fuck behind me. I'm going to the cross. You're not going to make me doubt, right? You're not going to make me doubt. It's not the story of religion. So it's not this poor person being led to be, tortured and killed. No, I'm going for a reason. So the devil is just doubt. And when I don't do that, what happens when I give into doubt and I don't do that and I hate where I am and I want to get to another place and I know I can get there, but I'm keeping myself in prison? If the kingdom of heaven is within us, where is hell? We all know hell very well in our minds. We don't need eternal burning. We don't need all that. We don't need to be, fire and this and that. Believe me, being in your own mind when you're miserable does feel like eternity, right? Think about all these things. There's time doesn't matter. So it feels like eternity. If I'm having a really fun time goes by real fast. If I'm miserable somewhere, time goes really fucking slow. So I do feel like I'm in hell for eternity. I'm just in my mind. I have to detach. I have to let that go. I have to stop identifying with these things that I don't want. They're not me. They weren't me. They're not me. Now I know for sure they're not me. And I'm going to tell you, when you pick what you love, when you choose you, when you choose you, you feel so much better, because the truth is that's all there is to choose. That's what giving it to yourself means. You have to fill yourself up with love. I have to take from myself. And that's what I was talking about before. Even if I fail, it's already done. God already knows. There's already billions and billions of fractals that are making up the body of God. God's already created everything. God knows he's going to wake the fuck up. You're waking up. People are going to be waking up for all of eternity. This is going to go on. Right? And it's done. So God's not worried about failing. You measly little meat suit, literally have the audacity to not think you're powerful enough to think a thought and to stop, or to get disciplined in writing something down, in writing a sentence, in catching yourself when you're thinking something, in saying, I'm going to stop this because I'm done with this. You're so weak that you can't not tell the story again and again. That's how weak you are, right? In groups constantly, coaching things constantly. Oh, I did it. Oh, I'm giving up. Oh, I don't see them. Oh, it's been this. Oh, I went on their social media again. All I did is, you are creating that. It doesn't exist. So you're just you're that weak, but yet at the same time, you're more powerful than fucking God, who's been around forever. You're gonna ruin the plan. You're the one fractal who's powerful, who's more power. You're the one piece of God who's gonna descend and say, I'm creating a new story. I'm running away from my own self. I'm the one evil God didn't count on. Right? So you're both most powerful and you're the most powerless. Pick one. That's called being double minded. And that is someone who is unstable in all their ways, who gets nothing. If you're in a tug of war, where do you ever move? Nowhere. maybe into a little bit of mud on one side and a little mud on the other side, but you never get anywhere, and it never even ends. That's why you have to detach the sword, right? It cuts everything, kills everything but itself, right? And that's why he says, I come to cause war. You either hate me or you love me. You are either with me or you are against me. That's it. Being in the middle is the worst place to be. So no matter how many times you're told that, you know, it's like you say you want this stuff and then but then you know, do you? And so sometimes we don't, and that's fine. But it doesn't matter because we have to still the rule is gonna be the same forever and ever and ever, amen. And you're never gonna forget this. This is the Hotel California. You check in, you can never check out because you will never walk away from this because the rest of your fucking life will be haunting you that, like, "I know I was just thinking that. I know I just thought that. If I woulda stuck in there, if I would" you can't walk away. You can't. You try to. And I want you to but here's another thing I wanna remind you, though. I do wanna tell you this. There's 2 things that are that are important. One is that, like I was talking about, it's so simple. That's the weirdness of you thought life was weird. Now imagine how fucking weird life is, right? But here's the thing. It's actually that it's so simple that humans can't stand it. Our brains were not designed that way. They were designed so this body can live. Because God can't experience anything if it's dead constantly. If you keep getting hit like a frog crossing the road and Frogger, right? Like you can't, you can't. We we just we we are puzzle solvers. We have to do that or we would not survive. Right? It's so we are very stingy with our cognitive resources, which is why we stereotype, we do all these things. But we need to do that. We need to. Right? I can't question if every chair, if someone, if a chair, if a high chair or a car seat or a office chair or a lazy boy chair, if one is a person and one is a food and one is, you know, a dad, like, I can't do that. I don't have time for that. Right? There's a million things happening. So the simpler it is, and then the more that it promises us, it just feels like that can't be. That it doesn't feel possible to us. Like, it does not feel possible to us. And that is why it takes faith. And that is why I have said 1,000 times too, focus on love. It's the one reality. It's the one thing left you can cling to. You can cling to it. It's what you are. It's what God is. It's what everybody else is. It's what's going to fill you up with the top-notch substance. So when you push it out, if you're persisting in thinking loving, grateful, gratitude, thankful thoughts, you cannot fail. How can you? You can't get higher than that. So if that's what I'm persisting in, and that's how I'm raising myself to be, and that's what it is, and I'm just loving, 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 right? As best as I can, as best as I can, as often as I can, and then making a point to know these teachings, put the investment in so that I have a solid understanding, a solid grasp, a solid like, okay, I believe it. Okay, I've tried it. Okay, I'm willing to say, okay, I'm willing to say it makes a lot more sense than any fucking religion ever did. Right? It makes a lot more sense when you actually put it into a mental capacity, and it is fascinating. It's riveting, I find. So you can always go to love. That's putting you to the front of the line. Why would you be chosen when you are pure love? Why would you do that? Why would you want to go back and heal and also when he tells you don't, don't. God the Father is eternal now. That awareness at this very second is whatever I'm aware of being right now, right now. And if I think back to the past, I'm doing that right now. And that's where my attention is. And then God's going to start forming in that. It doesn't know that, oh, that was happened in the past. I don't do that anymore. Or this is happening in the future. I don't do that anymore. It's right now. God is eternal now. So whatever you're thinking about is right now. That consciousness is forming, and as you're persisting in it, it's going to start to take hold, and you're going to start to see a world filling with that. It starts to fill quickly. God is powerful, right? He's power and might, right? And now he's love. He starts out as the powerful and the mighty, right? So you can always go to love. The fact that it's so simple, that's really all you have to do is love yourself enough to just say, I'm willing to do these little things. Is it a small price to pay? I want relationships that go well the rest of my life. I want money the rest of my life. I want freedom the rest of my life. That's what I want. So is it worth writing down some new sentences? Is it worth when you notice something? So I'll give you an example today of something that happened to me. So there was somebody who a person who follows me that I know that I like, and I talked to her, and I haven't like talked to her much, and I saw one of her TikToks, and I commented, and the song that was playing was something about, like, I don't want to be alone. I'm lonely, like you're great, and I don't want to be alone, and whatever. I don't know. It was like a popular song, whatever. I think I don't even know, but that's what the lyrics were, and they stuck out to me. And I said, I was about to write to her. I did write to her because I wrote to her, but I wrote to her how I stopped myself before I put it back on myself. So my initial instinct was thinking their separation, looking at her and saying, "Look at the song you happen to choose. You subconsciously chose this song. She's been trying to get her SP. You subconsciously chose this song to showcase this like Thanksgiving thing that you were doing. It's talking for you, right? Why'd you pick that song? I don't want to be alone, blah, 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 blah. Like, you're amazing. You're this, you're sparkly, whatever the hell it is. I don't even know. And then I thought, wait a minute. She didn't, her subconscious mind isn't lying. My subconscious mind isn't lying. I brought that in. No man cometh to me, save my father, call him. Not even a song on somebody's TikTok. Not even a commercial, not even algorithm, not even anything that you think. They're just things that I believe, but you don't have to put that much into it. But when it's something like that that stands out to you, it stands out to you, that's just a no for you. So it really does become information, and it actually does become more of an interesting game because you can detach. You can detach. Exactly, Francesca, and that's amazing, and you are evidence to me of my subconscious mind. I have convinced my subconscious mind that I am a coach who does this. That means I need clients. I need clients because I am interested in Neville Goddard and his teachings. I don't wanna be the SP coach. I don't wanna be that's why you don't hear me talking about anything, like, particular like that. I don't ignore it, you know? But I don't go there, like, I'm not the SP people. I'm not Kim Valletta, I'm not doing that. I'm not like the SP person, like, that's not my I address I've at there's times I tell people to please leave if I'm in a TikTok live and they come rushing in. It doesn't even happen anymore because I don't want there's people for that. I'm talking about teaching avocado and then you apply it to everything. So, it's not that we can't ever talk about it, but I'm just saying the point is this is about learning this, just investing in yourself because just when you think I promise you this, just when you fucking think that, like, I remember there was a time I had the nerve to I used to be so excited because, like, I would spend all this time and when I tell you guys the hours and shit that I put into this of listening and listening and listening and listening, and when I think that I used to not be able to understand this, and now it is like if you are thinking about the alphabet and try to imagine yourself that, like, you basically study that nonstop for years did learn the alphabet, right? Like, now how much you're aware of it, how much you know it, how much you use it, how much you, like, whatever, how clear it is what it is and what it does, and you know it, right? And so I felt sad. I felt like that was my SP. That was my time. That was what I did, like, listen to that endlessly. And and I felt sad almost, like, my zest was, like, gone, right? Because it was, like, always making videos about what I was learning, what I was learning, what I was learning. And then I realized how arrogant of me to even think that, like, I have anything like, have I changed my life? Yes. Do I have a testimonial of my own self? Yes, or I wouldn't be sitting here. There's no fucking way that I would have done there's no fucking way that I'd be sitting here. And then when I was testing, you know how it's, Francesca, we talked about this before. I always forget the saying, but, like, pressed down and running over, right? Because you're giving to yourself, you're giving to yourself, you're giving to yourself. So I started when I got here, I started, like, I guess, questioning myself a little bit without realizing it. And so I tricked myself and I was like, I'm going to test these different, like, these different kind of container things. Like, well, I think we should focus on the disciples. I think we should focus on love. I think we should focus on states and desires. And because these things are like, if people had a good sound and, understanding of those things, they could get pretty far. Right. And I was that's what, like, I was led to. Why? Because your subconscious mind is God. It knows where everything is. It's hidden all your Easter eggs. You're waking up and you're finding them, right? All along the way, you're finding them. So, when but except we don't realize until we look back because we don't remember. And he tells us this. That's the other thing about Neville. Always think of him. I guess I've had, this is your different experiences in life. I've had experiences with dentists who have always been really good. And they like or always tell you, like, it's gonna be like this. I'm gonna lean your chair back. I'm gonna do that. I'm good. So imagine somebody who's like attentive and is telling you along the process. I'm gonna put your chair back, just a little. I'm gonna do this. You're gonna hear a noise, but you're not gonna feel anything. You're gonna, it's gonna feel tingly. It's gonna let they tell you like everything to expect. So you're still going through it, but you know what to expect, and it is exactly like it says. Neville does that too. He offers that to you. He tells you all of this. He tells you all along the way, like, this is what it's gonna be like, this is how it's gonna be. It's gonna you know what I mean? Like, he tells you along the way, like, you have to persist or you're going to, um, you know, um, your subconscious mind is God, and, you're going to, um you're gonna have these inner arguments and you're gonna have to discipline your mind and you're gonna do this and you're gonna have to practice and you're gonna fall back asleep and you're gonna have to try this way and try that way and you're gonna he tells you the whole like everything that's gonna happen, right? So I am thinking that, like, oh, okay, I've gotten to this point and stuff. And then I start realizing, like, what was I was kidding myself. And when I was doing that though, oh, he tells you too, that's what I was saying. When you're giving to someone else, there is no one else. And that's like the story of Job, right? He was in prison and he was saying, um, you know, praying for his friend to get out of prison. And then he thanks the visitors that come to see him after he's like, "Oh, the Rook of Job is, like, rough, right?" Um, So anyway, it's I like it though, but the bottom line is he says to these caretaker people, like, "Thank you for coming." And I said, "When did we come see you? When?" And it was like when he went to see the friend, because you can pray for your friend. You can that's why you can take love from any tap. That's why I kept saying that. It doesn't matter. It's all you anyway. It's all you anyway. So when I was testing, part of me was like, I guess I got little bit off balance, like I've talked about, like, he talks about it too, like how, like, when you do get into a new state, it's like wearing new shoes or living in a new place or anything like that. It doesn't quite feel natural. It doesn't feel like your natural expression, right? You have to, like, kind of decide that. That's a choice. Your self-concept is a choice. I'm gonna say that 1,000 times too. So, it's a choice. What do you want? And you decide it, and then you declare it, and then that's it, right? And so and you can do it really simply just by, just that's just who I am now. Like, that's it. And so he tells you though that as you're giving to yourself and as you're doing that, like, you're going to get more and more and more back. You're gonna get more back. So when I got uncomfortable, where I was like, "All right, I think I should test," I started, like, buying into the real, like, 3D world. I was not in my I knew I would be here, but then when I got here, it was like getting to that new apartment, and it was like, "Do they know I'm here?" Or, like, "Does anyone know, like, someone let me in, blah, blah, blah." Even knowing all this, that I created it, I still went through that. So I was like, "I have to test this." Why would I test shit? The fun of testing stuff is gone. There's no testing anything. It's deciding. So here I am, but it led me to the things that who needed them? Who was I coaching? Who was I doing that for? Who was that intensive every day put this into practice for? Right? And then there was others, right? Like these my friends that the other pieces of me that are also God, that are also just me. They're only in this dream, in this universe, in this realm with me because they somewhat match. So I'm here focusing on that stuff too because it's for me, but I'm giving it to them, and it made so much sense, and it got me so much more disciplined, and so many things happened, and I got, like, there. But then I started noticing that there was some doubt there, and I was paying attention to the fact that, like, then why did I stop doing things? Why did I start doing all of this, like, completely, not charging anything, testing it, doing all these things all these days a week? Like, what was I doing? I was giving to myself, and I didn't you don't need. I always say I'm independently wealthy, so it's like, does it matter? It didn't matter, and I love doing it, and I that was what I needed, and I would be worried like, "Oh, am I doing this enough myself?" Well, guess what? I wasn't, and so now what happens is I get to, um, take it, and take it on. You embody it by just doing it. You literally embody it by doing it. That is what action is. Faith without action, but it's mental action. So you're not going to just embody it in the way you think. It's not the way you think. You have to let that go. It's literally making a decision, deciding what you want, and then sticking to that as much as you can. And I'm going to tell you another thing. It is not I as much as I know this, as much as I know this, as much as I know this, the other thing is this, you will sometimes feel, and I was talking to Laura about this today, because she was feeling great and then she started not feeling that good. And she was like, fuck, like, how did I fall out of that state? How did I fall asleep? Here's what I'm saying. You're going, yes, okay, that's fine because you're going to, but you're in a master level class already. So you couldn't be here. You couldn't. So you're already ahead of the game. I don't care. There's no way I would believe another thing about it. There's no way I wouldn't. There's no way I would. There's no way I would believe that. So you already know what you know. So it doesn't matter if you waver a little bit. It doesn't matter. There's a humanness in us, and it comes with some leftover parts. There's a trade-off on both ends. All right. There's a trade-off on both ends. And both have give. Both have room to give. Right? Both have room to bend before they break, so to speak. So you don't have to worry if you waver a little bit, right? It's not gonna do anything to you. But you're not gonna embody it the way you think you're gonna embody it, where you're going to just suddenly feel all these feelings. No, you're not, because of course you don't, you're not going to. But you can faith without action, not physical 3D action. It's pointless, it's useless, it doesn't matter. It's mental action because God is movement. God is movement. That is how it started, right? God is always moving. So when I get to us, this is what happens. This is what I was telling Laura. We get to a state, right? I have my aim set here, right? I'm not happy doing whatever, right? I'm not happy with the money I'm making. So I want to make more money, right? I'm ascending. That's why I came. So God is in me to ascend. That's the process. That's the purpose. Right? So here I am. That what does ascending mean basically? It means I'm like moving on from an old self concept. It means I want more, I want better, I want this, I want that, right? So that is the desire. That's why it's not even our desire. That's why I said, consider it like leverage things, make them new meanings, make them simple. This is just meant for me now. I'm called to it. It's time for me to level up. That's what I'm here for. I've accepted I'm God. I hear the calling. I know that thing I want. I can identify it. It's time for me to go there. So I'm just going to just jump in and assume that that's what I am. That's what I am. I'm going to just keep saying that. I'm going to keep saying that. I'm going to keep imagining it. I'm going to keep thinking it. And I'm going to I'm going to understand that this is reality. So what happens is sometimes it starts to feel like you'll hear this wave where it's like, oh, it feels like I forget. I fall back asleep. I go through some trouble. I go through some furnaces. I'm upset. I don't feel good. I'm mad at somebody. I created some shit. I did this. I did that. It's like self-sabotage, right? And then we have these level ups that come off the back of that. Well, you know what? It's think of it like this. It's not that you didn't fall back, right? I don't tell that story. Why would I tell that story? If I have a choice to tell any story, why would I tell that story? So the story I'm telling is that I'm moving through states. Like imagine if you were driving literally through a small state or something, or through a city, and like you didn't want to be there. It's like you're there and you don't like it. And it's like you want to get out and you feel whatever, and then you whip right through to the city that you want to go to. Or that, is you turn that bend, and comparison from the one city you were just in that you hated for whatever reason, and now the new place that you're at feels extra good, right? Because from good to good, there's not that much of a difference, right? From horrible to great, there's a huge notice in that, right? So it's like you went through a state and I'm leaving the state and I'm driving through states so fast. So I'm getting to them, I'm penetrating them as far as the thought of I'm there in my mind. I'm going whipping right through it. Each state, basically, each state of mind has a place where it feels good. It's our goal. And then it's satisfying for a while. And then and then we want out of it. That's the story of everybody's life, right? Or we want it better, or we want it different, or we want bigger, better, more, right? That's the story of everybody's life. So each state of consciousness, it's a state of being, it's a state of consciousness that an I am goes into. So if I'm already in a state of being miserable, sad, whatever, when I'm focused on that and that unformed awareness forms and is within me, because I am my other one, the state, my mind holds the traits, and now I am going to express that because I have to have my world populated with that again. So that's what that saying means. That's why when it's like the state is has everything it needs to express itself. It's like self-contained. But sometimes when we feel like we fell asleep at the wheel or we like lost it or we went back a bunch of steps, we didn't. We were going through an ugly state just so quickly that we hit the good, the middle, and the end like in a swoop because there is no time. So we blew right through it. So it was a weird feeling. We're used to being asleep and lingering in these states for a long time before we make any moves, right? So now this is new. So that should let you know too that, things are changing. You can bounce back much faster. When you do. Why? Because you're out of that old state already. You already went like through one so fast that you're out of it. You wanted it, you liked it, you hated it, you got out of it so fast. And now you're in a new state, right? And you could feel like that, like it was a horrible thing and now I leveled up so much more. No, you just came into a really nice state from a place you just went through so fast that you didn't have time to process it right because there is no time. So that's how fast we can travel through states. So it's not a coincidence that we always think that. And then here we go back to the rabbit hole. Nobody exists. So I'm talking about myself. I'm talking about what I've noticed about myself. So I've created then a bunch of people who are going to agree or report back. So that's why you'll never know if you're conscious. You'll never know if you're dead right now. You can't prove it in any way because if you're imagining and you're hallucinating people around you. You're hallucinating your world. You're imagining your world and you're populating your world. So, because I and my father are one. So, if I'm God and I'm populating my world, I have no way of knowing because people are going to confirm to me, "Oh yeah, I exist. Yeah, I'm real. Yeah, it's 2023 we're coming into. Yeah, there's something called TikTok and YouTube, of course, right? We would be crazy not to, but I have no idea. I'm just making everybody be that. These are all just concepts. I'm just making them be what they be. I have no idea what it means to you or what you're doing or what you're really doing. We've talked about this, especially with the online stuff. I literally have no idea who you are, what you're doing, what's going on. I have no idea. Right. So it's always going to be that slippery little rabbit hole where you can have this whole conversation about somebody else and if they're manifesting and your friends don't want to manifest and they don't get it and they don't listen and they don't do that and you feel this and there's no point in talking, there's no this and there's no that and you know all of this stuff, and then at the end of the day or every few minutes or whenever it is for you, you're going to be like, and again I'm talking about myself, and again it's just myself, and again I'm talking about myself, and again I'm talking about myself, and again I'm talking about myself. So it's like we sit here and create these people, then have conversations about stories with them or things we catch or how it helped us or to help them, and yet I can't even prove I'm alive, but like he says, I know I'm aware. I know I'm aware, and I know I'm aware of things changing. So anyway, that is just some stuff. So yeah, you're not going to just embody it. You embody it by little, by just by saying, this is who I am. 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 And taking some leaps of faith, taking some action, mental action. That's where there's always movement comes from. This will tell you where signs proceed. This answers a lot. This talks about states. This also talks about some timing stuff. This also talks about um, um, reiterates once again that you're God and your imagination is God and how it's talking to you. It has its own mission, like I said, like the rifle. So it's going to persist, and the subconscious mind does that. So in the morning, I say, I am love and in love and is love. Yeah. Yeah. I used to love it. I used to be like, and it doesn't take long for our mind to get on a roll of something. So, like I said, it's a very gentle way to flip thoughts without pounding yourself, without, hitting your head and jarring, because you can say to yourself, like, just tell a simple story, like, know that, they're home taking a nap, and then just start loving on something else and just be like in love with being in love with being in love. And the more you think about that, the more it is you can get trapped in this story of like just wanting more, 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 right? And imagining, imagining, imagining. That's it. So those are some things, right? You have this rich background. You have to start taking some mental action, disciplining your mind. It's a habit. You have to decide what it is you want. You have to decide that you want it. And then I'm going to tell you something I just realized the other day. After all this time, you would be like, you would think like, what? Because I thought, what? Are you kidding me? So we are always, always leveling up, leveling up, leveling up, leveling up, right? And it happens so fast now. I mean, like, like every other day. I almost was I was telling Helen, I was like, I'm almost exhausted. It's like I'm almost exhausted. I feel like God is using me now. Like it's just too much. Like it's like I'm exhausted from like, whipping through and then being like, what's going on? And then like going, oh my God, I see things like even more clear. And I noticed that I was you're not doing this to get anything. And you've heard that 8 billion times, and you hear it and it means nothing. It really doesn't. It doesn't mean anything. So I think the best thing to do is to write down, like, sit down and write yourself some kind of letter and just say, like, I'm admitting that I am completely and utterly powerless. I mean, I would start from right there if I was newer right now, like, and there's a reason I'm being told that in this moment, real time. Like I've shared with you guys that a lot of times when I'm doing the way I talk and the way I share and the way I post and all that stuff is really basically a process. It's a story. It's me going through it as I'm going through it. It's repetitive because it is repetitive. It only needs to be said once. Nothing ever changes. The plot never changes. Neville said the same shit for 30 fucking years constantly. It's the same thing, right? So it's just a matter of getting it into your mind. But you don't have to reprogram anything. You don't have to heal anything. You have to fix anything. You make choices and you have to break some habits or get into some new habits based on what it is, if you actually want it or not, because that's the only reason that you don't have it. That's it. But here's the thing. If you when we say you're not doing it to get something from outside, or you're not doing it to prove anything, or not doing it to change anybody, because you can't. It's only self to change, and then they will change. We don't believe that. We don't hear that. Our ears do not hear that. We do not hear that. Because otherwise there'd be no need to go on social media. There'd be no need to do all these affirmations. There'd be no need to do all this stuff. There wouldn't be any, because I would just be like, I'm not doing, there's nothing to get. I realize reality's in my mind. This is a fake world. It's in the matrix. I'm not getting caught in the matrix. I'm just going to give myself everything I need. And then the AI things, the other particles, fractals, people, whatever hallucinations are going to come around, and I'm going to get to play with them and do things with them in a sensory way. And then, that's how this life's going to go. And I can just keep doing that. When you're looking at your SP's behavior, when somebody is like, I'm doing this for me and I'm giving it to me. And I noticed that the minute that like I started giving it to me, my SP texts me. And then the minute that I started like saying, well, why did he only text me, once or something? Then when I went to text him back, he never answered again. We will do that for a while before we realize that's exactly that's the exact definition of looking outside of yourself and thinking you're doing this to change somebody, and having plugged your ears and not understanding that you're giving it to yourself because there's nobody there. It means you haven't quite accepted that yet. You haven't. And, what are you going to do? I mean, accept that, right? But I'm going to go through this real quick because this is a couple of really popular sayings that you hear in this. This is from the new Cristology. So Neville, at this point, this is from 67, soon before he's going to die in a couple of years. He's been big into the promise and all this stuff. But anyway, he now basically is like He's more just pissed at the church for not telling people, like, what this really is, right? So this is how he starts it. I'm just gonna read it. I'm not gonna read the whole thing, but he's like, "I feel that the truth of the working of God's law should be looked upon as intensely as anything in this world. So tonight, I want to show you quite clearly how God's law operates." Right. And so he says, we're told in the 14th chapter of John, let not your heart be troubled. You believe in God, believe also in me. So all the times that you've heard that, who's talking? Who? Right? It's you don't your heart does not need to be troubled. You don't have to worry. You believe in God, believe also in me. Who is this new per character? Well, what do we know? It's all always God. So it's your imagination is God. It's your imagination is God. If you believe in God and we're told that your God is your imagination, your own wonderful human imagination is God, right? So if this is your imagination speaking to you about God, right? Talking to you. Don't let your heart be sad. Don't let not your heart be troubled. You believe in God, believe also in me. In my Father's house are many mansions. What's the Father's house? Where does God live? Where's the kingdom of heaven? Where is God's body? In your body. So in my Father's house. So my if you believe in God and you believe in the imagine, then believe in the imagination too. And in the body that we're in your own very own body, there are many mansions. If it were not so, would I have told you that I go to prepare a place for you? What is that? Preparing a place. That's making a choice. Which room am I going to? What is it going to be? What do I want? Where am I going? What do I want to be? What do I want to be? I need to go prepare a place for myself. My imagination is going to start preparing by thinking about it, getting into the groove, doing that, right? Thinking about the things about it. It's going to start coming up with what it wants in your body. And it's you, right? So that's why this isn't normal either. You're taking all these parts and they all are you. You're the potter and the clay. You're like, if this were, they call this a play or a dream, if it were the play, I mean, God's everything, every part, you know. So when I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again, right? God's word does not come back empty. The subconscious mind gets impressed and it seeks like a missile. It's impregnated. It's going to give birth to your kids. You're going to be every creation of yours. You're looking in the eyes of your child that you created in your own image. Even if that's a missing SP, that's your kid. That's who you create. That's your offspring. That's what you created. It was molded after you. So when I go and I prepare a place for you, I will come again and receive you unto myself, that where I am, you may also be. So, what is that saying? If I'm imagining that I am in New York, when he was imagining that he was in Barbados, right? Where I am, I'm going to prepare a place for you. So, I'm going to go. I'm imagination. You believe in God, believe in me too. We both live in your body. We're both in your body. I also have the same power as God because I'm God. I'm going to go and imagine. I'm going to use my my faculties, which is imagining, and I'm going to prepare a place. I'm going to get that. I'm going to get myself all settled in Barbados. And then I will come again and receive you to myself, so that where I am, there you may also be. So now that I am set up I have persisted in there. I set up my place. I persisted in it. That's where imagination is. Now I am going to come. Imagination is telling you, I'm going to get you from there to there. And you don't have to worry about it. Don't, you know, Don't let your heart be troubled. I'm going to go do this. Right? So that's where that stuff comes from. It gives you assurance. If nothing else, you can say that phrase. If nothing else, you could say these phrases. If nothing else, and you're lost and you feel completely like it's done and over, and I reacted, or this happened and happened, the worst thing happened, the worst thing that you could think of actually happened, you're still okay. Because you can just, this, so you're okay. Right? And that's where these things come from. And then to know them, or you can go read Neville. Sometimes there were times I was so confused I couldn't even string a sentence together because I like buy into this stuff, and then I was like, Helen said to me, "Go read Neville," and I was like, "I'm not even clear," and I did, and after a few hours of like journal, lecture after lecture after lecture, I was like, "Okay, I have a whole new like lease on life here. Let's go." Because it puts you back in the mood. So read Neville every day. Read your own Neville every day. Read one lecture a day. You can fit it in. They're a page or two. They take a couple of minutes. Read it. Listen to the YouTubes again and again. Listen to the message. Really understand that you don't have to start at a lower consciousness and work your way up to the consciousness of like where you think a coach or somebody would be. I don't have to look at my business and say, well, I remember when you know, all the hot people like Laz and Kimberly and Kim, all them, like when they had a handful of viewers, when they were members in groups. And, now it's 2 years later and look at what they have, right? I don't even have to do that. Why was I doing that? Why was I coming out of the gate making an assumption that put something a year away from me? Why would I do that? But I wouldn't have caught that. So now I catch it. And the more I catch it, because the more I know, because it all makes sense, because I have all this history, I have all this background, I have all these lectures, I have all these stories, I have something to cover every area. I get pulled back faster. When I get pulled back faster, I'm back in my imagination. I'm back focused on one. I'm now driving the car in the same direction that God's telling me to. I'm not taking U-turns. I'm not stopping the car. I'm not doing anything. So it's moving. It's in my benefit. Right. So he goes on. This is also where he says, Christ is oh wait, no, I skipped this spot. He says, so when I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again and receive you unto myself, and that where I am, there you may also be. You may think of a man speaking to a group of men as I am here or something. He's like, but these words are spoken by the human imagination, who, having come out of the Father, came into the world. Now, leaving the world, human imagination is going into the Father's house. He is returning to discover the source, the cause, the phenomena of life. Jesus Christ is your own wonderful human imagination. It is the way to everything in the world. That's why people say, have you accepted Jesus as your personal savior? Yes. I swear, you to this day, you have no idea how when I say that out loud, and I know I'm on like a public forum, literally saying, "Have you accepted Jesus Christ as your personal savior?" I feel crazy, right? Like, or whatever. Um, and it reminds me of something too, because there was this kid I used to know at this group, and he was quote mentally ill, like seriously, right? Quote. And one day I would see him all the time. I would manifest him showing up all the time, like wherever I was. He was like, especially on buses. So he would sit next to me and he'd have these conversations with me. And he was sweet and nice and funny, but he was all over the place. And one day he told me, Jesus Christ is in your spine. And I was like, what the fuck? I thought it was like, whatever. And then you read the story about how like the body gets split in half and like the scepter, right? The blood is liquid, like gold liquid that has to run back up his spine the same way Abraham has to lift the thing for the snake. I'm not telling it good, but pulls it back up his cane or whatever it is, or he raises it for that snake you see carrying up, and that's that liquid going up the human spine. Neville always talks about God's blood being like liquid gold. I don't even know what that means, to be honest with you, but I do remember having a conversation with a guy I thought was insane, who sat on a bus and one day turned to me and said, "Jesus Christ is in your spine." And then, then I read that just like a couple days ago, and I was like, okay, so much for who we label as mentally ill, right? And who's seeing what, who's still delusional. So I'm just going to read this a little bit more. You may think that the man is, talking to a group of men, but these words were spoken by imagination. Okay, all right, because this is the whole source of life, blah, blah, blah. Jesus Christ is your own wonderful human imagination. And that is the way to everything in the world, but specifically to the Father. Tonight, we will take this thought on a practical level so that everyone will know how to bring into this world everything he wants, no matter what it is. Okay, so the one lecture you need. If you want an assignment, you want to know how do I do this? That's how you do it. I would take the disciples, I would get his lecture, I would get whatever you want. There's resources in my group, but I would do whatever you need to do. They're out there. I would make a list and I would start picking some things to start disciplining my mind in where I need to be. I would write a reminder to myself every day, like I am completely powerless and I'm just giving over that power. I'm detaching. That doesn't mean letting go. If you understood Neville too, you wouldn't be so confused. You wouldn't be one of those people who are constantly in the room saying, do I have to let go? Does that mean I can't think about my ancestors? Does that mean I can't think about them? Does that mean I can't think about the things I love? Does that mean I can't? Then why would you be here? If you're not allowed to have anything, you're not allowed to look at the 3D, you're not allowed to create in a 3D, you're not allowed to enjoy in 3D, you're not allowed to think about it. Why are you here? Why would you do that? Why we got to do that? What's the fucking point of that? So of course you are. But what you're detaching from is this story that you're bound to, that has you held up, that has you imprisoned. You're identifying with all these things. And these thing after thing after thing that's unprogramming. That's reprogramming right there. Just detaching. Saying I'm powerless every day is reprogramming. It's done. Jump ahead. Jump the fuck ahead and be God. Get to the front of the line. You're going to stand in the back as an echo of people saying, I'm good, I'm worthy, I'm chosen, I'm worthy, I'm good enough. Good enough for what? For what? To love you? To this made up person? Like it's oh my God. And I'm not against affirmations. Affirmations are just thoughts. I'm affirming to you right now. Saying I'm powerless is an affirmation. Doing this, but those are ones that are pinpointed right to you to just remind you, to help build the belief that you don't, you haven't been aware of. Have you thought about if you're powerless? Have you thought about any of that? You know what I mean? And I'm not telling you to put night tapes in and listen to that and say it endlessly. And you'll get your stuff when you believe that, how do you know that? Like you don't know. You know what you're focused on. You know what you've been aware of. So you can switch your awareness. You can switch your awareness. That's what you want to be doing. And you want to always take that back inside because that's how you create. It's part of it's the process to get it into the 3D. So yes, you're allowed to think about it. Yes, you're allowed to do that. But you have to think about it in an agreement. There's another lecture called If Any Two Shall Agree, meaning your subconscious and your conscious. Or even me and you. Honestly, because we are of the same. So if we were like, listen, this is what's going to happen. And, this is the only way you're married. And that's why I'm always, if someone tells me I'm with my husband, yes, you are. Absolutely. Because we are of the same mind. That's, this whole telepathic stuff. Yeah. Because if we're all God, it's all the same consciousness. I can just kind of pinpoint it at who I want it to be at, but it's going out to everybody. That's why anybody can bring you back stuff, right? So today, let's see, I don't know, I might want to skip all this stuff because he's talking about like poverty and how if you weren't focused on it, you wouldn't there's billions of dollars being spent on anti-poverty stuff. Yet, the one thing they won't do is talk about what imagination actually is. So that's why I'm saying he was pissed at the church at this point. So he says, so, the outstanding need is to teach the new Christology, to tell everyone you meet that Christ is the human imagination. For without this knowledge, I don't care what you do, you'll never bring your desire to fulfillment. You just won't, because you'll give up, you'll be thrown off, you won't have anything to back it up. You're not going to trust, if you don't trust God and Neville and the scriptures and all this stuff, you're not going to trust some person on the internet. And you're certainly not going to trust yourself when you don't think you're doing things right. And you're certainly not going to trust that the process is going when it sounds insane. And you're certainly not going to remember all the time. And you're certainly not going to do it when something that you don't want in your life is showing up, and you're going to be tempted to call it the opposite. You're going to be tempted to get into all the little jargon, and that now you have a whole belief system that it takes a certain amount of time, and that this has to happen, and this means this, and this is your concept, and you have to do these affirmations, and that's this. You get this. Now you have a belief system. You got to cut through all that shit. So the other thing that does is it takes you right to the source, and it keeps you focused on this and out of the world of just listening to shit. I've been posting some TikToks, and it's funny, there's only like 2 or 3 people that I literally will watch it all in manifesting stuff. So here we go. People have heard this many mansions, many times, and they do not know what this means. I know they don't know what this means. In my Father's house are unnumbered mansions. This is what we're talking about, states. The House of Many, the Many Mansions lecture is about the state, your state of mind, which is also the same as your self concept or your beliefs, right? Unnumbered states of consciousness. If it were not so, would I have told you that I go to prepare a place for you? And when I go, I will come again and receive unto myself, that where I am, you may also be. In this statement, imagination is telling you that he is the Father, for no one comes to the Father but by me. Only when you come to the awareness that your human imagination is the phenomenon, the source of all life, you will find the Father, right? My Father and I are one. My Father is greater than I. If you believe in God, then you believe in me too. We're in the same body. This is the body. This is the house, right? The imagination doesn't even, the thought came to me. That's the desire, the state of mind, the mood I'm in. Who's in that mood? I am cranky. I am tired. I am happy. I am thrilled. I'm ecstatic. I am energized. I am exhausted. I am whatever. Who is? God. And God, no one comes to the Father unless he calls them, right? So why would imagination then run off and prepare a place for you in that state of mind? So that when your being gets there, that's going to express it, which is the I amness, and it's going to come to life, the mood's already there, the tone's already there, the mindset's already there. You're animating it. And it's the same thing you're doing with other people. I'm going to skip some of this because he just talks about like the Blake talking about the Tower of Babel, where people don't, we don't speak the same language, so to speak. Like, we're, even though in that Tower of Babel, like, people are talking over each other, talking over each other, talking over. So it's like noise, and there's no real direction or anything like that, right? And so he goes on to say, the world is animated by your human imagination. At night, when you sleep, your imagination leaves. The world is animated by your human imagination. If it did not return in the morning, you would be dead. For life is nothing more than an activity of imagining. So if your imagination didn't come back to you so that you can start imagining this life again, you would be dead. So Blake continues to say, when thou ariseth upon my eyes, even in this dungeon, this iron mill, Blake saw the physical garment as a dungeon, a mill of iron, but your imagination knows all. It is all and is all powerful. And that is your, well, also your subconscious mind. If you should find something, if you should forget something, and this is so funny because, again, like, it's funny that I came to this because I've been talking about, I've shared about the little magnet thing. I've shared about just chapsticks, this. Helen got, her vacuum piece, this one, that one. You can literally just say, take me to it. Take me to it. It knows. And when you kind of let go and just start moving, it will take you right to your stuff. And here he's saying this, and I haven't even read this in forever, but it's just, you'll see, that's what I'm talking about, by you hide Easter eggs for yourself. But your imagination knows all, is all, and is all powerful. If you should forget something, knowing that your own imagination is Jesus Christ, say, thank you, Father, that you always hear me. So I say, take me to it. That's how I talk. But you could say that. Thank you, Father, that you always hear me. Do that, and in a matter of moments, the thought will return. Recognize your own wonderful human imagination as the only God and the only Lord Christ Jesus, for besides him, there is no other. So the outstanding need in this day is for a new, church and Cristology and all that stuff. Because he's talking about this poverty and bullshit. But he's going to tell you exactly what he does. So this is why you can just literally read this, commit yourself to 2 or 3 little habit changing things. Start saying, thank you, Father, for always hearing me, or whatever you want to say. Take me to it. I trust you. Thank you. Whatever. Thank you never hurts anything. And know that wherever you're at, you're heading in the right place. Because you're starting to believe in this. You're starting to see it. You're starting to know. And you have resources on where to go, where to turn. So he's talking about, it's boring. He's talking about his neighbor who's giving milk to, blah, blah, blah. I want to get to where he actually says what to do. Here he says in chapter 14 again, imagination is speaking, saying, let not your hearts be troubled. You believe in God, also believe in me. I say the habit of worry discloses the lack of faith in the sovereignty of God. You believe in God, believe also in imagination. If you worry, you don't believe in your imagination. For worrying is your confession of your lack of faith in the sovereignty of God. Now, imagination continues saying, in my Father's house are many mansions. Were it not so, I would have told you. Would I have told you that I go to prepare a place for you? And when I go to prepare that place, I will come again to receive you. And unto myself, where I am, you may also be. He's talking about what he did. So again, it's the same thing. He does sats, like it or not. That's what he likes to do. So he was trying to get home. He was in Barbados with his wife and his kid. And this was like right after the Second World War. And they were told that they couldn't get any boats out of there. And he had like a show and, like, I don't know, a speech or whatever, blah, blah. He wanted to get out. So he went, this is what he says. That afternoon, I went to my hotel room and, sitting in an easy chair, I allowed it to become a little boat. He says, like, he's talking about in those days, there was no deep water harbor, and like little boats took us to the ship. So you had to like walk. He said sometimes by like a mile. So assuming my chair was the boat taking me to the harbor, I felt the rhythm of the water. And when we were latched onto the big ship, I allowed my brother, Victor, to carry my little daughter onto the ship. Then I helped my wife and I followed her, feeling every step of the gangplank. When I got to the top, my mind wandered. So did he say, no, I can't, I can't do sats. I hate them. I can't do them. I can't visualize. I can't do this. No. So I brought it back to the base of the step, and I repeated the action. And every time my mind wandered, each time I brought it back again until I reached the top. I turned and holding the side of the ship, I looked back nostalgically at the island of Barbados, for now we were sailing. In a matter of moments, the phone rang, and the agent told me that because of a cancellation they had just received, from America, something going on, the package was available and he was going to be able to leave in April, which was the date he had envisioned. And he said, and then on that day, my brother Victor did carry my daughter to the gangplank, and my sister-in-law followed, and then my wife, and finally myself. They acted, but the source of their action was my imaginary act. So they played out exactly what he said, and he tells you exactly what he did. That's all SATS is. It's just getting what would you like, and just relaxing into it, and just imagining it, and just doing it until you do that scene until you feel it. You've done it before. You've done it before a million times. Scripture tells us that Jesus Christ is the source of all phenomena, that by him all things were made, and without him was not anything made that was made. If Jesus Christ makes everything, and I know what I did, is he not my own wonderful human imagination? So if Jesus is the source of everything, and by him all things are made, and I just did that, and I know I did it. I just tested. That's why he says you test it. And I just did that. Does that not mean that I am, in fact, was I praying to a God? Was I begging? Was I pleading? No, I was imagining it. I was believing in the power of my imagination as God, as the source of everything, the phenomena of all life. And it played out exactly like that. And he had to persist, and he had to go through it, and he had to hang in there, and he had to be disciplined. When his mind did get away from him, and he pulled it right back, and he pulled it back, and he didn't stop until it was done, until he felt like he was on that boat. You know what that's like. So he says, that's basically this is it. He's telling you this is all you need. You can be handed this one sheet of paper. But it's nice to have all this other background stuff to remind you, how come I'm God anyway? And what's the story? And what is everyone is your show? So they all come together. And after some time, you have a full picture that keeps you 95% of the time in that groove until you slip down the rabbit hole, or you whip through a state so fast that it feels like you fell back, even though you actually went right through it. Right? Or you can course correct, because you can start going, wait a minute, I was just blaming this person. Like I knew about it, there's zero exceptions. We somehow think that it does work in this area, but it does not work in this area. Or in this area, yes, I can imagine, I can get that. But not when it comes to actual money or my job, or not when it comes to my body and my health. Our bodies are just the emotional filter. So if you've been having some emotion and someone's got any kind of sickness or any kind of anything going on, they are at cause, and that's letting you know they're feeling some kind of way. They can't lie. But then again, why would you imagine that? So there's always that. So Paul tells us he loved you, and he gave himself for you. Loving you, imagination gave himself to you by becoming you, that you may become imagination. Who is Christ? There was never another Christ. There will never be another Christ. Put your imagination to the test and see if it is Christ. If it is, do you need anyone else to tell you? Do you need anyone to support you? Do you need to rely on anything? Do you need to worry? Does your heart need to be saddened? Do you need anybody or anything anymore? You know how to think new thoughts. You know how to do it. You know how to impress your subconscious mind. You know how to play the game. You've learned how to play the game of life. Florence Scovel wasn't far off either with her whole stuff about, your wand is your word is your wand and the game of life, how to play the game of life and stuff. Same idea, right? She's just imagining this is how it is. And so he's saying you don't need any of this shit, right? You don't need anything. You don't need to rely on anybody. So if I tell you who Christ is, and in testing, you find you find him as your human imagination, does it matter what the world thinks? If there is evidence for a thing, listen to this. If there is evidence for a thing, does it matter what anyone thinks? If it can be proven in performance, what does it matter what the world thinks? You don't need to ask a minister, a rabbi, anybody. You don't have to ask your boss. You don't have to ask your friend. You don't have to ask your SP. You don't have to make the phone calls. You don't. That's the whole point is he's saying you don't have to do a thing. Pick a state of consciousness. What are you going to be aware of? What do you want to be? Who do you want to be? Pick it, name it, enter into it. That's by picking it. First, pick it, decide what it is. What is it that you want? He always starts, what do you want? Don't tell, that was just a state. Don't tell me about any shit. That was a state. What do you want? You tell him what you want. Then you start to decide what would that be like for me? And that's where he gets like his entity. What would that be like for me? And then you go and you occupy it. And occupying it is the part that is the problem. Because there's a whole other thing about Joshua, and he's basically it's also it's Jehovah, and basically he's told, if the sole of your foot stands upon it, I promise that you will stand upon it as well. Like I will give it to you. So that's also Jehovah. That's God also promising God, who's you. So it's all just God. It's all just God promising God everything and anything that he wants, as long as you accept that you're God. And then you have all this backup, and then you have ways to test it. And if you want to have an exact blueprint, here's an exact blueprint. This is one of many, but this is like one page, one quick little thing. So pick a state, enter it, occupy it. That's where you're occupying it. That's where he's on that gangplank. That's where he's sticking through. That's where he's walking and walking until he feels the water, until he feels it, until he smells the sea smell, until he's like there in it. And then he falls asleep doing it. And imagination leaves and goes and prepares this place. Right? Build, and then when it comes, it comes. And that's the other part of that. It'll come when his time comes. When the good shepherd comes, now here, I want you to remember this. When the good, so wait, let me get on here. So pick a state, enter it, occupy it. Your father is the good shepherd, and your desires are his sheep. When the good shepherd comes, he gathers all of your desires for you and others. If you are wishing things for other people as well, he gets them together and he brings them into the field. How's this done? In your imagination. And it says a friend's desire may not be something you desire for them. But if it's not like in any, he says, if it's not any ethical code that you have a problem with, then you're a good shepherd. Be the good shepherd, and you will represent your friend to tell yourself as telling you that he or she has it. So, I may not like your SP. Doesn't matter. You do, and you want to be with them. And who cares what I think? Right? I may not like a job you want to do. Who cares? It's not my business. Who cares? So you give that to your friend. You see that for people in your life. Who cares? If that's what they want, let them have it. Just like you're getting what you want. And that's where another popular saying comes from, right? So John in the 10th chapter of John, we're told that the good shepherd goes first and his sheep follow. Signs follow, they do not precede. So you're creating. You're not gonna see a sign of what you created until you've created it. So you can't see a sign of it if it's not yet created. As it's being created, it's getting, brought forward as the shepherd is the good shepherd walking out, leading your desires. That goes first and then comes, right? They do not proceed, they precede. In where are we? Take your desire into the fold, right? Keep your sheep in the fold, keep your sheep nice and tight so they don't wander off, so they don't get eaten up, so they don't get stolen, so they don't nothing's gonna get robbed. Take your desire into the fold by putting yourself into the desired state. Remain there until you feel its reality, knowing that imagination is creating reality. Thank your Father and drop it. Now do nothing. Do nothing. Think about your desire. Stick with it. Go there in your mind until you feel it, until you know that you have seen that through. You will know. Have faith, believe in me too. If you truly believe that your imagination is God, then have the faith, show the faith. This is the action. This is the mental movement, being willing to walk that plank, being willing to just start again and start again and start again and not give up, being willing to pick a new state, to choose what he wants to hold it there, to do this, just being willing to do it. That's faith with action. There's always movement because God's always moving you to another state and you're on your way to another state, right? And he says, take your desire into the fold. You want to keep it safe. You want to keep it alive and healthy and well. Literally do nothing and drop it. That desire is yours. Now, you don't have to know where it is right this second. No one's ever telling you that you're going to open your eyes and it's going to be here. But know that the most basic analogy that everybody's been using since way back in the day when I was listening to Esther Hicks and stuff, and since Amazon existed, or people talking about room service, or whatever analogy you want to use, the order's placed. And you literally trust more in Amazon Prime than you do in God. Because you get that in a day and you're imagining that. You're creating that. So that I'm saying that literally to you. You literally trust in the imaginal people of Amazon Prime than you do in God, who's making everything happen in the first place, who even made that exist from other people's false assumptions. Do not be concerned with the interval of time between the fertilization of the seed and its hatching. Only know that the seed of desire has been planted in the mind. And if at the time you will find your sheep have gone astray, bring them back into the fold where you know who the good shepherd is. But if you don't, you will find many shepherds who will fleece you, right? So if you do later have doubt, if you start to have doubt, if you start to question, if you start to do this, and you don't watch that sheep, there's other things out there that are going to swoop it up and rob it from you. Guess what that is? Doubt. Doubt. Because if you're doubting, then you're not getting anywhere. You're nowhere near getting what you want. And you're going to fleece yourself because you're falling for something. So doubt is the devil. Doubt is what will trick you. So that's why, again, you have that great little saying, get ye behind me, Satan. You are a hindrance to me. Right? I need to die to that old state. He has to die to the Barbados trapped in Barbados concept, or he stays there forever. So if you let doubt kick in, he's never leaving Barbados until eventually he has a belief that, it's been a long enough time or whatever. But at that moment, he obviously has fallen for it. And if he doesn't watch that, he's not the shepherd with his desires, and he doesn't hold on to them, and he didn't stick through it, and he didn't. This contains everything you need to do and know, and a lot of the popular sayings that you hear with the many mansions and the states and the um, imagination and preparing a place and the good shepherd. Sorry, I had to have the screen covered while I was reading that because I had it pulled up on my computer. So I see you wrote a couple things here. Last night I read, what did you say? You're loved. I've written morning affirmations. I went within and chose affirmations that resonate with me. My affirmations feel real. Why say powerless and not powerful? So sleep affirmations don't work. So does it come when you have completely saturated your subconscious mind? This sounds contradictory to persist until it hardens into fact. Okay, well, all of your questions, you're basically just questioning. You don't have He's telling you to test it yourself. Have you done that? Have you done what he said to do? Well, who are you questioning? Answer that question. Who's questioning right now? I am. I am. So guess what your awareness is? Your awareness is of doubt and question. You do not believe, you don't believe, you're not buying any of this shit right now. So your conscious mind that has to figure out a puzzle, that wants to make things be things that they aren't, when I just read the exact words to you. I just read exactly what to do. I just read exactly what he said. If you you are letting your sheep go, you are questioning, you're overcomplicating simple thoughts of loving, being thankful, being grateful. So you wrote your affirmations in the morning. You went within, your affirmations resonate with you, and you chose that resonate with me. My affirmations feel real. Okay. Are you arguing with, who are you telling that to? And what are your affirmations? Were they what you want? Did you go to the place that you want, and did the affirmations take you into a place that you were there, real, experiencing it? And then did you drop it? And right now you didn't drop it because you're here day after day, right? I'm not saying this to be mean to you. I'm saying this to you because this is what has to happen. And this is why, as you learn this and as you learn this and as you learn this, I literally just read to you, and it completely went, just, it's like you didn't hear it. If you did that and you're testing it yourself and you believe this and you did it, then right now you'd be feeling really good, because there'd be nothing, you certainly wouldn't need to count on me. You wouldn't be looking at anybody else. You would know that it's all just you. You would be, if you did have a moment of doubt again, you would take it in. What I was saying is about, as far as being powerless, is we get attached to things and ideas and control and this and that. And we think that when doubt comes in, that we can ruin something, that we are more powerful than what's already done. So to say I'm powerless as far as that goes, then where's your doubt? You're already told you're not the one in charge. They're not your desires. They're not, you're part of a bigger picture. You're part of a bigger plan. You're part of something else. You just get to be conscious and get to experience the things, to take it on, to go through it, to come back, to report. Right? Your only free will is one thing, is to be in agreement with that or not. So What I'm saying as far as being powerless is to stop, in a way, to stop doubting and to detach and understand the difference, so you're not spending all this time fretting like millions of people do, because they confuse detaching and letting go of an old bullshit story of what they are attached to, that is making them afraid to let go of, to move forward, or to just not fight against, right? To detach from that old story and not fight against it. If I were what if Neville instead got on the phone? How many times have you done this? If someone tells you no to something you really want, or something you're gonna have, or something you think you should deserve, or whatever, do you turn your back to it and go in your mind and give it to yourself? Or do you get on the phone and start arguing and fighting with them and demanding what you're gonna have, because you think that that 3D action, that fighting against it, when really, what are you doing? You're just putting another bar in your own prison, because you're just you're putting so much attention on something you don't want. And if awareness is what we're focused on, we become what we're focused on, you're stuck in that realm. You're never going to get it. That's why 3D action doesn't fucking matter. We see that again and again and again. You have the same pattern. You date the same man your whole fucking life, just with different names. Or you have the same money problems of your whole fucking life, no matter what you've done. Jesus is it's the pattern. It's gonna unfold, right? It's gonna unfold. So that's why I was saying, like, let that go, because you don't want to give attention to it. You want to turn your back to it. Sounds cold, sounds whatever, but you want to turn your back to it and focus on what you want. So that's a way, by saying, I'm just powerless to it. You know that you could still think about it, because you do need to tend to your sheep so you don't get fleeced or robbed. Because when you're doubting, what are you doing? What are you also doing? This is why, again, when I have a whole library of all of Neville's stuff going in my mind at any moment to pull from. So now I'm right back at the trial. Who's on trial? God's on trial. What's God? Awareness, imagination. It's in me, right? So I have to choose. It wasn't really Jesus a man, and it wasn't really Barabbas a man, but he was the robber. So right now, I'm at a moment. We're constantly at a moment of being at that trial. Who are we choosing? If you start doubting, you start fighting against, you start resisting, you start arguing, whatever you're doing, you don't, give up. Give up when you can't see it through. Give up when you don't believe in imagination. Give up when you question it. Give up when are trying to do this, when you're making it harder, when you're doing all that stuff. When you're doing all that, you're choosing Barabbas, and he's stealing your sheep, and your sheep is your desire. But guess what? You can't ever really lose it, because at the end of the day, you're going back. You're just gonna delay. You're going through another furnace, and then you'll have another try, and more sheep will just come. Your imagination will go back to that place and set another place again, and you'll just do it again and again. So, as far as people saying you can delay stuff, you can delay it, because it's like anything else. It's just like anything else. If I have to work as a team with you, and I'm going one direction and you're going another, are we gonna get anywhere? That's back to being double-minded person who is unstable in all the ways. You're not gonna get anywhere. If we're in a teamwork kind of thing, and we work together, are we gonna get it done faster? It's still gonna take the time it's gonna take to unfold, but are we gonna get it done faster? Are we gonna even just get the seeds planted faster? Right? Let's say me and you want to make a garden, literally, and he's talking about seeds taking a certain time. If we're fighting and arguing, and you're digging up dirt and I'm putting dirt in it, and you're digging up dirt and I'm putting dirt in it, that could go on for 10 years. That's why it's so amazing to be awake now. Work with it. Work with it. Work with it. Yeah, it's still going to take the time it takes a seed to burst. You don't know, you don't get to know that. But I'm telling you, things pretty much move pretty quickly when you're working in the same direction, right? That's something you can see in the 3D that carries over. It's patterns that just carry over and over and over. God created us in his image. We're creating things in our image, right? We're always looking at our own kids, so to speak. We know them. We may not remember planting the seed, but we did. So that's why, there's no outside cause but you. And if you have a whole library of shit, you go, oh, I'm at back of the trial. And then guess what? Every 2 minutes, I have to be resurrected and I have to go through the three phases. The three phases, right? First, I have to have a desire, and then I have to uh, choose, nail myself to the cross. And then I have to I have to persist there long enough until I'm resurrected as that thing. If I cling on to that long enough, I have killed myself, the old self concept. I have I have pointed out, across what it is I want, my mark, and I have nailed myself to that, and I've stayed there long enough in the desire, in the state, as the thing, nailed the thing, not standing here wanting the thing, not looking at the cross saying, I want that, I want that, I want that. Nailed to it, walking in it for the time that it takes for that thing to express itself. And it's all there, just like in a seed. So I have, the seed in the, when you have his work, you can constantly reassure yourself, constantly pull from somewhere, constantly pull from something. It's not about believing in a quote. It's not about just accepting that no circumstance matters when I have zero idea where any of this comes from. And I'm just told that if I repeat words enough times, that it's going to just happen. But then I have all this doubt, I have all this question, I have all this stuff I don't understand. This makes the process be bearable and makes it actually happen. Because like you said, if you're not watching that sheep, someone's gonna fucking take it constantly. If you're choosing Barabbas and not Jesus, you're gonna doubt. And doubt is going to stop you from getting to the cross. It's going to stop. It's gonna leave you trapped in hell. And it's hell on earth. Heaven on earth and hell on earth. And it's all in your mind. And that's fine. You're allowed to have feelings. You're here to have feelings. You're here to have feelings. You're allowed to have feelings. Think about it like this, right? This came to my mind too from I went through it and someone had done like this tarot thing and they read it. I don't do like tarot or anything like that, but someone just came up to me like was excited, was like boom, 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 boom. And actually was a really good reading. So I should just I should just leverage it. I like to leverage everything. So like I don't do it, but if it was perfect, then I say, that's the truth. Right. It came to me and no one comes to me. Save the Father. Call him. So this was like rushed at me excitedly during a time with someone who was like into it. Um, and we were having like this level up moment together. So anyway, she showed me this card and there was she's like, "There's gonna be, like, another tower moment," and I was like, "No," like, I have a vague understanding of that, and I was like, "I don't want tower moment, that's gonna mean that, like, yeah, no, don't put that in my mind." I have a belief about that, right? So I didn't wanna hear that shit, and then I was like but it's like, "No, but, it's like, it's good because that's again, you're dying it's a death to self, right? It's a death to some old self." So, she showed me this card, and it was like there was, some guy it was one of the cards with a bunch of cups, like all the cups overflowing. But behind it was like two cups of like two small cups spilled. And she was like, "You're crying over spilled milk right now. But look, you don't even see what is here because you're focused on these two little spilled milks. But meanwhile, you have overflowing cups all in front of you. That as soon as you turn around, you're going to see you have all these overflowing cups. And right now you're caught up and you're crying over these two little spilled milk. That doesn't affect those cups. You just don't see them right now because you're there. But so like think about that in reality. If no matter what I'm doing, right? my imagination, I know that something is real. In my life right now, if if I do something in my life and I make a mistake, I do something dumb or whatever, right? And I come home and I literally spill milk. I literally spill milk. If I sat and cried about it, like for real, I literally spilled milk. That was the thing I did. And I sat there and cried. Does milk on the floor have anything to do, and me crying over it, have anything to do with, like, is it gonna destroy, what is it doing? It's just sitting there. It's not like this stuff you it's not like it's impossible to find. It's not like there's a shortage. It's not like it doesn't exist. It's not like I'll never have milk again in my life. It's not like it's the only thing there ever is to drink again ever. It's not like I'm like cut off. It's not like I'm getting something taken away from me as a punishment. It's not that I have to beg and plead and do service to milk, it's not, if I fell asleep and I left it there, it's not gonna burn a hole through the floor. It's not gonna destroy my house. I could leave it there for probably a day. I could probably leave it there for 2 days or so, and it would really, would start to get disgusting. I would know it's there, like, start to get all gross, but it wouldn't do any long-term major damage. It would make me suffer for no reason, as I let it go, when I could just stop and then, like, mop up the milk, clean up the milk, and move on, but it doesn't do anything. Doesn't do anything in the end, right? So, it's the same idea, like, we have ideas holidays is just a day. Christmas isn't even we're just so, like, once you know this, like, Christmas is just another day that people have just assigned as a day to hang out and get together. I understand, I really do. It doesn't matter if it's just another day. People assign these meetings and they're powerful, and that's why I had the Thanksgiving workshop open, because I'm telling you, for years I had seen people just crying and on holidays, and people were in their 40, they didn't have anywhere to go, anyone to be with, blah, 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 or they were triggered afterward or when they got home or whatever, but family being busy or being out with their friends who are buying stuff for their SPs and they're not, like, all these things. So that's why I was doing that. But my my own beliefs, my own self-doubt, my own sheep got away from me, and I got fleeced, and I believed I wasn't paying attention, that I was paying attention, and I started making up these other stories. So then it was like, "Oh, now nobody." I started doubting myself, what I'm doing, blah, blah, blah. So I created a scenario that, like, all of a sudden, this year, nobody seems to care. Nobody was minded. So I could cry over, I was like, annoyed also at myself for doing that, just because it would have been fun. And I think that there would have been people that would have enjoyed it. And I made it not happen. Right. So I held other people in prison as well, so to speak, because I didn't allow it to happen. And so the holiday, you get through, you make plans, you figure out what you're going to do. Or you say, I'm going to spend the day in bed, or this too shall pass. I'm going to sit here and be sad. I'm going to sit here and do this. I'm going to sit here and do that. Even if you were with your SP, I know people who are with their SPs and they have different family things going on and they go to different places, or I have a friend who's like a EMT, and she was newer. So she always had to work, you know? So they didn't even get to spend, like, Christmas Eve, Christmas morning together. I've spent Christmas Day at my ex's my SP's ex's house with her girlfriend, so in the morning, so that we could bring the kids over because her daughter was still younger, so that she could have like, it was like a modern family thing. So I had to spend my Christmas mornings sitting in my ex's house with her new girlfriend for so the kid can have both of her parents there, right? That's not how I didn't wanna spend my holidays like that. I manifested that bullshit. And But yet, at the time, I didn't even know it, so I was like, "Oh, I should be grateful, I should be thankful." I'm like, I mean, I guess I kinda was, but I wasn't. I wasn't happy, so, a lot of people are doing things on the holidays that they're not happy doing, so first of all, don't compare yourself to anybody. Don't You're creating this whole story, these tradition, this thing, it's a day, it's a season. I know, but you can change this. You can go into your mind and you can make it be right now. And you just go there right now. Start doing it now. Start tonight. Start right now. Go home and just be like, I did like nothing in this year phases me. These are days, these are things. I've created all these people. It's a myth that I've created. So of course I have some that are having this, Norman Rockwell Christmas, and some I think are having, and some are in hell, right? We don't know. There's going to be a mix of both. So acknowledge that. Detach from this whole story that like you have to be with someone on these holidays or something. Like if there any day that's any different than any other day. Know that doesn't matter if you're together, sometimes you still don't get to be together, which those people are manifesting that. So you know what I'm saying? Like again, we're back down that rabbit hole, we're back down that rabbit hole, we're back down that rabbit hole. So because it's always you. And then at the end of the day, it's always me. It's always you. It's always me. It's always you. So do this. Literally do this. Write down some new thoughts you're going to have. Write new sentences. I don't care if you're talking to us, who your best friend, whoever you have. If you feel like people would, if you feel like that would be distracting because like they might say to you, your mind might wander and they might say like, no, I don't like you being back together, or I never thought you'd come back, or why did you give him a chance? Don't set yourself up for the easiest possible way you can do this. And so if it's coming back to the group and writing a post and saying, I literally listened to that tape. I did exactly that thing. I imagined, him coming over, and there was snow on the ground and there was his car, and, the crinkling of the wrapping paper, and he was wearing a sweater that make it as sensory as possible, and just follow through with that. Follow through with that until you're having some sort of scene. You can make Christmas today. You know what Christmas feels like. Christmas is a great example because there's a feel, right? There's songs. Feels like Christmas, right? Beginning to feel like Christmas. So there's a great one. Like we know what that feels like. We know what the buzz is. I'm telling you, you go to New York City, anyone from around here, you go to New York City, there's literally just buzzing energy in the air. It's crazy. So there's a feeling. So do that. Do this. Write down, I'm detaching from this old story. I'm just consciousness. I'm not going to fight it. I'm not going to wrestle it. There's no harm, no foul if I'm upset. I'm here to have emotions. They're part of the ride. They're part of it. I need one with the other. They have to balance out. So if I want to be happy, I have to have some sadness, or I wouldn't know I was happy. Right? And some people like you better go to a sad movie or read a sad book or do anything. You do it for fun, and you know that you can get out of it. But when it feels like it's in your life, you feel like you don't have control to change it. It feels like it's going to overpower you. So then it's not so fun. But it's the same. You can shut it off the same way you can as when you're crying during a movie, and then the movie ends and it's over. Your emotional is over. It's done. You have that. If you have that ability to do that, then you have that ability to do it right now. So follow this, literally follow this, and do that. And then if tomorrow, or if even, and so to answer your question, Francesca, as far as you do the imaginal act one time and drop the seed and persist in the imaginal act until it hardens into fact, you do the imaginal act, yes, and then you let it go, meaning you don't do anything. You don't start calling your SP. You don't go on social medias. You don't do these things. You don't worry about it. It's going to come the way you imagined it coming. It's going to happen. You need to let it go. That's the letting go. That's the detaching. That's the powerlessness. Stop attaching yourself to something. Stop thinking that your doubt is stronger than God. Stop thinking that you are, already planning on letting your sheep go. Stop thinking that. Work with it. And so if you need to go back in and do it again, that's fine. You can do it again. You could do it all fucking day. You can take a day off work and call out for a mental health day and lay in your bed and think about that scene the entire day if that is what would soothe you all day. You can do it. As long as you're not thinking that it's not gonna happen, it's not gonna happen. You can get lost in that scene and lost in that feeling and lost in that feeling because it just doesn't quite feel satisfying yet. Doesn't quite feel satisfying yet. I still need to give more of this to myself to feel like I am actually receiving it, like I'm satisfied from it. That's why I called the desires a prescription for relief because you do it until you feel satisfied. It's very, very sexual. I could have also said, I used to tell people in coaching, people that have coached with me, I've told them, fuck yourself with your desire. That's basically what he's saying. And until you're exhausted, until you don't even want it anymore, he compares it to the physical act. It's the same thing. I'm doing this. I want it so bad. Right now, you're in a state of desire and wanting and lusting and longing, right? And you have this thing that you want and your desire, this beloved that you want, you want, you want, you want. And if you are merging with them and having the scene you wanna have, which would be the same as the physical act of impregnating someone, right? Until you do it until you're satisfied, and then when you're satisfied, you're done. You're done. And then you assume at that point you're impregnated, and you only need to get pregnant one time. So it's not that you can't go back and think about it and enjoy it and think about it and have fun, but you're not at that point, you are pregnant. That's done. It's gonna just take its time to form. That's it. So you don't worry about it anymore. Now you're just doing it because you want to, because it feels good, because it's nice, because you're thinking about it. Because while I'm waiting, I'm thinking about it. Same thing when if you are literally pregnant, you go and they start buying clothes and they start buying cribs and they start thinking about names and they start doing all stuff because they're anticipating it coming. They know it's coming. They have the stick, right? So as you have to like give yourself an imaginary stick, whatever you have to do. Get creative, leverage things. Use the whole thing that if it's not here right now, that it has to harden into fact if it's a false assumption. So is it here right now? No. So that means it's a false assumption what you're thinking. So that means as you persist in being with it and it's done, it's going to harden into fact. That's the rule. You leverage these things, all of them. Every little thing you can. If think about yourself crying over spilling, get creative. Think about anything. Work with God. Work with. Don't be digging up the garden while they're digging. Think of me and you. Pick somebody to tell the story to. Imagine that you're telling. Here, if you're doing that, here's a little tip from other Neville information and inner conversations, as you heard. But what's important, I think, about the inner conversation is not just me saying like, "Oh my god, Francesca, my SP came," or "Oh my god, I have so many clients," or "Oh my god, I have so much like tons of money is coming everywhere," or this or that, or what I'm healthy as can be, whatever it is, whatever, right? The thing is to hear you saying it back, to hear you like saying, like in my mind, I would hear you saying, "Wow, I can't believe that, how fast you did that. You really have gotten good at this. Like, I'm in the right place." Or like, you would hear, what would I hear you saying? You need to say it back to me. And I need to have that conversation. Or then even better, like, you know, um, I can like you posted in the room and then I commented, and then so did, Sabrina, and then so did Peggy, and so did this one, and you're reading what other people are talking about your success, asking you, "How'd you do it? How'd that happen? How's it feel? It must feel so good. We're so proud of you. So congratulations, blah, blah, blah. You deserve it." And it's like, you're beaming and you're like listening to, reading the post about you having achieved this thing. That will make you feel good. So it's like Go back and forth with that. So it's a full conversation and you're loving you. And if you can't do that without getting triggered or without getting doubtful, without losing your sheep or without getting all full of doubt and then wanting to resist it and fight it, you don't have to. You can literally then imagine that Sabrina came in and told the story, and you're saying, "Wow, so happy for you. I love it. I love hearing these stories. I love the support in here. I love that you got exactly what you wanted. You deserve it. I love that for you." Right? You're focusing back on love and loving someone else. You're persisting in love. I did it for months when I was teaching other people to do it, and I ultimately wound up questioning myself, like, am I doing it myself enough? And I realized I was doing it 1,000 times more because I was constantly all day talking about it endlessly on in groups, lives every day, in Zooms, this, that, everywhere I was. And I was going live on TikTok and I was, posting things. I was doing this and I was doing that. That's all I was saying. It's all I was doing. I was so immersed in it. And a whole bunch of things happened so fast, so fast. So this is real shit. I love this because I like the way he talks about it, and he says it's the importance of this needs to be as valid and as real as anything else in this world. So it's the new Christology. So if you're going to call it anything, they're calling it Christology. It's not religion. It's not Christianity. It's not religion. It is reality. Religion equals reality, mentality. This is a realm. Think of this as a realm. This is not, stop calling this reality. This is not reality. Just turn your back to it. You don't have to fight against it, but just cut it out. Why would you keep saying? Why would you keep calling something that it isn't is? Why would you keep doing that? It's going to keep staying there. So just cut that word out. Just get rid of it. I'm not saying, wrestle and argue with people. If someone else says, it's reality, I wouldn't be like, no, it isn't. Blah, blah, blah. But in your mind, just we're in a realm right now. Reality is here. This is a realm. I didn't know that until now. I'm accepting it. I'm getting used to the word. It's like it's like anything else. And then start creating little habits, and they're habits of the mind. So there you go. Once again, the whole story. You see where a bunch of these sayings come from that you have been told, that I know you're walking around saying signs receive, they do not follow, and you have no idea why, or this whole mansion article. That's a whole nother, there's a whole separate lecture on that in and of itself. Half these lectures are parts of other lectures, or they're a part of a book, or the same quote. So a lot of shit crosses over because, again, just like the coaches, just like everybody else, just like if you were a teacher in a school teaching class after class, math tables, like 2 times 2 is just always 4, always 4, always 4, always 4, always 4, always 4, and it's gonna always be 4. It was always 4, and it's gonna always be 4. If the kid that when you started your career is now a grandparent, and the kid that is now in your class is that kid's grandchild, what are you doing? 2 times 2 is 4, 2 times 2 is 4, 2 times 2 is 4. So that's sort of the same thing that this is. It's always going to be the same thing. But when you have a bunch of things, you can constantly, I'm within my mind pulling, and it's comforting me. It's buffering, 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 buffering. And then I level up and then I catch something. And then I think, I realized, oh my God, I'm going through states so fast. It's not less that I'm pulling back, or, oh, I heard the song. That's her. No, no, it's not. No, it's not. It isn't. It's me. It's me, right? Call yourself out. I am detaching. I'm not more powerful than God. I'm not the one that's going to take God down. So I might as well start we're in a 3-legged race. I might as well start going with them. Come up with analogies, things that make sense to you. Say thank you. That's another reason why when thoughts come, you don't want to flip them. You don't want to flip them. You want to fight that. You don't want to do that. It's jarring. Your brain knows it's wrong. You don't want to do it. That's giving it more attention, constant more attention, especially when it's rote. So again, an affirmation to be clear, is these are affirmation words, saying things, that's affirmation. But saying like, I am God, I'm jumping to the head of the line. I am God. So why would I doubt God? I'm powerful when it comes to my role as God, but I'm powerless that I don't have the ability to override myself. I'm not going to sabotage myself. I don't have the power to be the only one that ruins this whole plan of salvation of man. So that is where that was coming from. But I know all those different things, so I can pull them together and put them into place real quick. Right. So that, but you got to start somewhere. I said to people, write little love letters to yourself every day. I said, write a gratitude list with like at least 5 things on, just 5 little things that you're grateful for. Pick, this is what I gave people homework to do. I said, this is what you do once a day, just do this. Pick 5 things that you're grateful for. I don't care if they're the same things every day. I don't care if you just write breathing, bed, food, that I can walk and I can see. Okay, good. You can write them every day. I don't care. Then pick 2 things in your life that you take for granted, right? Laura was like thanking her toilet bowl every day, your light switch, your electricity, right? Your refrigerator for running, your stove for your microwave. When was the last time you stopped and said, "Listen, man, I'm so, there this is crazy how fast I can get food and have it made and ready. The convenience and how I have to wait this long and I can eat." And other people are like hunting and trekking and whatever, right? Or your refrigerator or your freezer or whatever. Your pillows or I don't care, your computer, your phone, your car, your friends, your boss, a coworker, someone, the you know, grocery store person, whoever. It's things that you take for granted. Go out of your way. Why? Is it the gratitude so much? No, what it is it's the habit of going out of your way to be thankful and grateful and see those things that are right in plain sight. All of the abundance that's right in plain sight. You are loaded with abundance. Loaded, you know? So I had another conversation with someone talking about like money, like how much they were charging for something. And they were like, oh, and it's like that tells you like just a mindset thing, right? Like how much I was just watching something on that, like, pricing and this and that, and like how, the work you put in and this and that. And then you're going to live in this lack state and be like, oh, people can't afford it. People can't do this. But yeah, people are buying Gucci. You think Gucci and this one and that one, and people are buying, you know, artwork. How about the guy that bought an $18,000 invisible statue? I mean, it's, at least these people are getting a bag or something that they have some perceived joy. This is some guy in Italy made, I think it was like a year or so ago, made an invisible statue and charged someone $18,000 and they bought it. And it's invisible. So they paid $18,000 to play a game with someone of invisibleness. I mean, people have so much money, they don't even know what to do with it. So it's just, don't put people in lack. I give tons of people money, charge a ton of money, and people get a ton of value out of it, and they're always just increasing their wealth. Whether they have a dollar, they want to increase their wealth, right? You want to always be looking at it like that. So those are things you can look for, and then those are self-reflection moments. If it'll catch you, and you'll reflect, and you'll say, "Huh, I just caught that." That's me right there. I just caught that. I had that problem with that. I just caught that. I felt that same way too. Or I was, doubting myself. Well, how am I going to sit and affirm that I'm rich, rich, rich and independent, wealthy, and then I'll be afraid to charge somebody something that I believe in, that I'm passionate about, and did something like in general. I don't care if it's me specifically or anybody. That is your true nature. So that's telling you where you really are, what you really expect, and what you really think. You know. I'm so excited because I manifested free AirPods this week, which was a test. So there you go. So I mean, that's why he says test it. Nothing. I could sit here forever. Neville sat here forever. Other coaches sit here forever. You could latch on, you could latch on to anybody's weirdo belief that isn't even this and try to make it work and do all kinds of things. But eventually that doubt is so powerful, right? We know it is because this is just a whole new world. It's not just backward. It would be nice if it was just backwards. It's backwards and upside down and twisting all at once, you know? So, well, so I wanted to keep this short, but I just don't. And I don't even, the truth of the matter is, I don't care. Like, I talk until I feel, I do this until I am satisfied, till I feel satisfied. Um, and it's important for me to say this stuff. Like, it's for me. I do it for me. I do this because I love it. And everyone is me pushed out. So I love me. I'm doing it. It makes me happy. I love to do it. I have great intentions for everybody. I try to be the best shepherd I can for everybody and just let you be and have and do and whatever it is you want. I just am telling you that the one thing I do believe is that this is an instrument and it's new to us. So you do have to learn how to play an instrument, master it. So it's not just making noise that hurts your ears, right? He says, like, you'll hurt yourself if you're trying to play a new instrument or you try to say new language, you sound awful. Or when even these first podcasts that I watch, in theory, I know they're horrible. Like I do, but I don't care. I don't care because I like doing it and I have fun and I like talking about it. And I know people are listening and I know some people are watching and they will start watching more and more and they're going to catch on to something. They're going to. I know it because I know what I'm fucking talking about because I know how this works. And I just have to keep practicing just because I know it. Like, again, I can know the keys or I know the alphabet really fucking well too. And I know a lot of words, but I don't know every word. And I haven't rearranged every word to make a whole new story out of everything yet. Right? It doesn't, but I at least know what I'm fucking doing and talking about and have ways to express it. And you better believe I've changed that fucking story and I do these things. And so I'm happy that you're being tested. I mean, I'm happy that you did a test and it worked out. You manifest things all the time. SP, it has been 3 years. I have known that this is done, but then I doubt. All right, and you're doing it again. You just let your sheep out again. Like this is what I'm saying. Like it's habit, Francesca. It's habit. I don't know what on earth you've been doing for 3 years, but you have told us already in this paper tells you, I just read exactly what to do. I spoke about it again. I spoke about it again. And you just, while I'm digging up the garden, planting your seed with you, you just threw dirt right in the hole. You just threw dirt right in a hole. And you're doing it to make something happen. Because it's been 3 years and you have a knowing, but then there's doubt because you manifest other things, but you don't see him. So you're looking for him. You're thinking you're doing this to make something happen. So you're right now, you're off the mark, babe. You're sinning. You're choosing Barbarous. You're right where, and did Neville not tell you this is? Remember I started this with like how it's like a dentist that tells you things you're going to go through? So you should feel very normal in a way because you're going through it. You're going through exactly it. You're at your trial. You just chose Barbarous. You let your sheep go. You just covered up the dirt. You just gave into doubt. You just thought you just said, why should I let go of power when I feel powerful? But yet you just told us something about that we don't need to, that, that you can't be living in your mind done and then talking about it more again and again that you haven't seen him and it's not happening and it's the one that you can't do because this is not this is a realm. Remember I said this is a realm? Start changing some of your definition. This is a realm. If you really in reality were married or were with your SP, why would you when you're in this realm having a conversation with other people, why would you lie and say that you're not? What's the point of that? But you don't see it that way. So that's why it's important to know this. You need to know to learn to play the instrument so you can call yourself out on your bullshit. It's really what you're doing. And this way you can't, there's nowhere where you can turn. Neville pads this fucking room. So there's nowhere where you can turn. It's just you. It's just you. And if you're calling absence to yourself, it's because you're aware of absence. And it's been 3 years, aware of absence for 3 years. And I could see why, because in this little bit of time, you have done about 6 other things. And it's not to yell at you, and it's not even to like point at you. It's not, we girl, it's the way it goes. That's why I'm glad you're here. That's why I manifested you. That's why you're in my reality now. You're in my reality. You have shown up. I believed in people like you, that people who want to learn about this so they can use it in their life and they can go on and master this enough so they can just get into the groove and, constantly have that repentance, that radical change of mind, and go right back in and get what they want. And you go right back into a state, right back into a state, right back into a state. And you know that since it's just states, you can't actually really lose anything. You can't. So you just have to keep trying and trying and trying. But at least you're here. At least you know, and at least you're learning. You could be out there for another year, just walking around saying stuff like signs precede and in my father's house there's many mansions, not knowing what the fuck you are saying and having zero clue on what that means to you and your SP and what he's actually saying and how it really is so powerful. What it means is exactly the process of manifesting, because you don't try to manifest, you accept the truth of how that happens. That's what you're doing. You don't manifest. You don't try to manifest. How long have you been manifesting? It's like language that we throw around sloppy, right? And then it's our thoughts, and we use feeling for thought and thought for feeling and all this stuff. But you can literally just say thank you, just thank you. Imagine laying there looking at him next to you in bed and just being like, thank you so much that I invested in myself and I put this in myself and I loved myself and I loved the people in the group and I was happy for everybody else and I learned and I was great, and there's a weirdo in bed and doesn't care and blah 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 and yada yada, and I love it and I did it and I did it and I kept doing it, and there's some like little mantra like I'm doing it, I'm going to keep doing it, and I'm not going to do it till I get what I want or something. You can come up with whatever. But the bottom line is do those couple things. And then, the other thing I had people do, so I had them do like 5 quick gratitude things. And then, you know, what I say, I don't know, 3 or 4, like, things they were taking for granted. And then a couple, like 2 things that they did not like. I don't care if it was a person or a thing in their house or something that they actually didn't like, and find something to like about them and write it down and literally find one nice thing about them or 2 or whatever. Find something. Detach them from know that it's just a state. That's another habit that's letting you not buy into the 3D. And it's letting you start to begin to get to a place of forgiveness, where forgiveness is forgetting. So if you can find something and the other thing is you, how does that benefit you? By like taking the 3P and finding something great to say about her, because that's ascension. That's you loving you. That's you giving to you what you appears to be giving to another. That's you giving to you the person who needs it the most. So when you're sitting there saying these things about her, you are just saying, she's incredible. She's an incredible person, because that I'm making her be there because I don't think those things about me. So she has to be a fill-in. She has to be a stand-in because of whatever. So by finding things about her, since she's a stand-in for me, I'm finding them about me. and I'm giving it to me. I'm giving that to myself, to myself, to myself until I am so saturated in that I'm God, I'm the creator, I'm the one. This is my life. I choose. I know how this works. I know how to do it. I know none of this is real. I know how to do this. I am awake in this dream. It's a lucid dream. I'm not going to just be blown by the wind and whatever happens. No, I get to, you know, that saying, like, I don't get to control the wind, but I can control the sails? It's like that there. So there's still the Father is greater than I, but you now have control of the sails. Use it. Leverage everything. Get yourself over to where you want to be. And if you would do those habits and then I was like, and then write a quick little love letter to yourself. I don't mean a fucking journal full. I mean, hey, Francine, I love you today for being involved in this. I love you for checking in again. I love you for sticking through this. I love you for being willing to find something you love about someone that, a lot of people wouldn't be willing to. I love you for that you're funny and kind and sweet and nice. I love you that you are a good gift giver. I love you that you cook good rice. I don't whatever. That's all it had to be. Just something about you, like what you love about yourself for that day. And again, it starts you getting in these are creating habits, and they're creating habits of you just constantly filling yourself with love in some way, and of being grateful and gratitude, and of seeing others as not separate from yourself. Do you see why they're not techniques, and you don't have to do them? But if you're not getting anywhere and it's been 3 years, are you is what you're doing working? Are you happy with your returns? Like, that's what Neville always says with the whole thing with the coin of heaven. Are you spending your thoughts? Everything just costs you a thought. That's why there's no money needed for any of this. You can get a house, you can move, you can go on a vacation, you could have anything you want. You need money. You don't never need to figure out the money. You never need to worry about that. You don't have to worry about it. You're spending thoughts. And it costs it's the same thought to get in something. It's the same money, it's the same thought to get money and love as it is the same thought to pay for it to go away. I'm still paying for it. One I'm paying to bring it to allow it in, and one I'm paying to keep it out. It's the same price. And it's the same thing. It's just, what am I going to think of? That's what it's costing me. A thought. Thoughts, thoughts, thoughts. So that's it. So are you happy with your investment? So if it's been 3 years and you're like, I'm not saying you are like this, but I'm just saying in general, you hear all these people, I don't want to have these. This is a technique. That's a technique. These are simple things that we know that if you are God and you are love, and love is the only reality, and you're focused on just love, and you keep it simple and you keep it easy, and you keep reminding yourself that, and you make it a habit to get into new habits, and you actually go through with them, you would do it. You would. Like, I've told people, like, I used to tell Amy, like, she would be stuck a little bit, and I would be like, if you had a baby and I threw it in a river and I said, get up and go get it, you're not going to come back a year later and say, that baby's still floating. I've been thinking about it, but I haven't been able to do it. You can get the fuck up and go to your baby. End of the story. Come, no matter what. No matter what, you're going to do it. My fucking dog was in a river. I'd do it. Right? So we know how much you want something by how much effort you put in it. We get comfortable being uncomfortable. We just do. It's not anyone in particular. It's just the way it is. And so now, just because we're just waking up, and now it's like, oh, now you can do all this stuff. All right. It's like, all right. And it sounds magical, and it is. And believe me, when things come through, I've never felt feelings like my soul shooting out of my body like I have when when I've experienced manifestation, when I've experienced things coming into my life that are just the stupidest shit, but that were so, so specific that there's literally no way that it could have been written by the best writer in the world. Like, it's just the most random things, and the way they happened and how they happened, and the turns and twists, and they were absolutely meaningless. Like, in theory, but they were so powerful that I literally, like, felt my, like, soul shoot out of my body, like, because I was like, there's no way, there's no way. This is crazy." And I wasn't in a good mood. I remember sometimes I was cranky, I wasn't feeling good, like, none of that mattered, and it was just, like, a passing thing, like, so it's just a matter of we don't know where we are with certain things. Like, we just don't know where we are unless you have some idea from, like, a pattern of stuff, which with what will surprise you and then what won't. So, yeah, and it's the worst thing to be. And we really do think we can't change our thoughts, and we can. And we're all going to level up. It just happens. It's just going to happen. Next year, this time, it's going to be a different story. Just like last year, this time, even if the SP thing is exactly is similar, you're in a different place. I went through a time when I was like, just so upset, like I would just cry. And then I was like, did I even really want that? Like, was that really my game? Was that what I was here for? I was just a person. Then I thought I was like rebuilding my life. Then I just had a realization that I just fucking rebuilt what? What was there to rebuild? What was I doing? I just held myself away from life for almost a decade. That's what I did. That's what I fucking did. Thought I was rebuilding something because of what I had let my life go to, what I had gone down to let happen. I mean, talk about that. But then I thought I was rebuilding life because I was going to some pretend school and getting stuff back together, but not allowing like people in my life. Then I thought I needed to manifest having feelings. Then I started trying to like connect to people, and like I thought I was cut off from people. Then I started getting, craziness, putting myself through bullshit. And it just takes somebody enough to smack you across the face, and say, or throw some cold water on you and say, "Stop! What are you doing? The fuck are you doing? Get out there and do your shit," you know? And then I started, like I said, I started being aware that, like, why was I questioning it? Why was I testing it? Why was I doing it? Then I started being aware that, like, came out really strong and was doing all that. Now I have all this stuff set up, and I left school. And I did all this, and it's like, now what? Then I'm literally looking at, like, you know, things on these analytics and how to do, and I'm starting to like change this and change that. I'm going to evolve anyway. It's just the way it happens because I'm just going to get better at doing something because I'm going to have practice. These are the first things I'm doing, and they're going out public. They're a certain way. I could jump in at someone else's consciousness, at someone else's conscious level and say, well, why would I start from the beginning when I can go listen to X, Y, and Z who have all these tutorials on YouTube? And that's a whole saturated thing too, because I don't want to be bothered. I don't care. I'm not interested. That's not what I'm here for. I'm not here for YouTube. I'm here for a place to reach the people I want to about a topic that I want to talk about, that I think is powerful, that I believe in enough to put everything into it. And it's because I've tested it and felt it, and it has changed my life. And because I have more peace during this time than I've ever had doing things that seem much more reasonable. So just keep moving along, keep persisting. Life just takes us along. It does have to work for us. Honestly, your subconscious is going to just do fucking most of the work for you. Just try to remember you're a team. You're like on Amazing Race, and it's like the best GPS. Always trust it. You and God are a team. You and your subconscious are a team, and you have a goal, right? And you're on Amazing Race, and it's you and you basically, because even if other people existed technically, you want to tune them out anyway. You don't want to waste time, trying to outdo or outsmart or outplan them. It always fucks them up. People who do that stuff. You want to say focus on just what's in you. Put blinders on like a horse. You guys, you have your end game that you are winning this game, and you're gonna work together. And then what do you do next? Who has strengths in what? Right? Who's good at what? So if you're good at puzzles and I'm stronger and have a bad shoulder, then wouldn't it make sense that you would do the puzzle and I would carry the thing, even if it's only a little bit more, right? So we can get through it together. and not be me going in one direction, leaving you the heavy thing to carry while I go in the other direction, argue with you about it the whole time, get in a fight with the other team, accuse them of cheating, or we can win this fucking game because we can work together because we're on a team and we both have the same intention. So nothing's testing you, nothing's against you. It tells you your subconscious is completely indifferent. The only reason is your conscious has any ideas that is already impregnated with it is because you were basically like roofied and impregnated with every belief you have because you were asleep, you were knocked out. Now you're awake, and now that you're awake, you get to decide. So don't, enough. You're awake. You're awake. Get used to it. Stretch. Be on the fucking same team with your subconscious mind, with God, with it. And even if you're sitting in a hotel in Amazing Race and you're crying, even if you're running and you're crying, that's why we can say, like, you can cry and you could be crying as long as your thoughts are saying and your mind is saying, like, I don't care right now. I'm crying. It's coming out of my body. I'm not going to hold it in. I'm not going to fill myself. It's an emotional filter. I'm not going to get sick. And then let disease give me a disease because I'm holding this in because I'm afraid that I'm not going to manifest shit or whatever. I'm not going to get some person to talk to me that I created. It is only as I'm breathing life into them, same way God's breathing life into us. So that's not going to happen, right? You don't want that to happen. So if we were running in that race and we were doing it, and I was crying, but I was still running, right? There's movement. I'm still moving. My mind is still moving. We're still moving. And it doesn't matter if we're both in tears or not when we cross the line. We still are going to get across the line. That doesn't stop it. Unless we throw ourselves down and lay there and then don't get back up and get in the game. And then they eliminate us. But then guess what? All right, we wasted some time. We probably learned some things, blah, blah, blah. We got some strength of character. And then guess what we do? We ascend, which is what we're here to do, to ascend, to experience all these experiences, to feel the good, the bad, the ugly, the this, the that, all of it. That's why we have no memory of it. There's lecture. Why do I know that? Am I making that up? No. It's part of the teachings of the scripture, which is what? Reality, a mental game, right? It's a spiritual psychology. And it says, you've forgotten because you have done such heinous things and you have had such heinous things done to you because you've played every role. So basically, you've been like Hitler and you've been, in the camps. Think of whatever the things you could think of that are horrible. Don't get too into it, but you've been both. So you get by the grace, you don't remember. We don't remember. We don't remember. But we've taken it in. We've taken it in. So it's not just this lifetime, it's generations. It's, so that's why you don't judge. That's why he says it doesn't matter. Sorry, Hitler's either living again another life to keep going, or he's up there back. He's made it his final round. We don't know. I don't know. Who knows? But the bottom line is everybody's playing a role in a play. So if there's a bad guy in a movie, we don't kill them at the end. We know they were acting. We know they're in a movie, right? Shakespeare seemed to know this. It's like Hamlet, the play, right? Like every set's in there. Like people knew. Where's this conscious come from? Blake. He's a poet, like an artist. Look at the shit he drew. Look at the stuff he wrote. Look at the words that came out of his mouth. Where is that coming from? Not him. But he's no different. He's not tapped into anything different. And so much of this is like hearing Esther Hicks. I mean, so much of it crosses over. The only difference is like she's thinking things are coming to you, where Neville's making it clear that you're giving it to yourself. That's like the only difference. All right, guys. So hopefully a little story time for you, a little practical things to literally do, right? Actual things to do. If you want to do some things, even though you have to do nothing, they're just things you can do. And then that's it. You just keep learning, you keep going, you keep doing, keep persisting. And I will see you guys during the week. Have a great week. Good night. Try it tonight. Sleep in the end.